Good evening. Okay, you're talking. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I know many of you would like to make public comments. There is a sheet that's going around. Whoever has it, can you raise your hand? Oh, okay, it's back over here. So if there's anyone else who would like to add their name, please do. I'll need the sheet in a few minutes to kick off the meeting. Thank you.
And people can speak if they haven't signed up at the end.
Yes, and we'll ask at the end if there's anyone else who would like to speak that isn't on the list. So, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Okay. I'd like to call to order this September 7th special meeting of the New Canaan Board of Education, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first we'll review the agenda for this evening. May I have a motion? Brendan, second. Erica, all in favor? All right, unanimous, thank you. Next is the approval of our minutes from our BOE workshop on August 22nd and also our regular meeting on August 22nd. Can I have a motion? Phil, second. Penny, all in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Next is comments from the public. The Board of Education expects mutual respect, civility, and orderly conduct among all individuals on school property, at school events, and in communication with district employees. The board encourages positive communication and discourages volatile, hostile, or aggressive language or actions. Board of Education meetings are meetings held in public, not public meetings, and the board respectfully requests compliance with all BOE meeting rules and expectations. To ensure the public's right to be heard, the board has set aside time during the meeting for public comments. 2 minutes will be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 15 minutes to each subject. I see we have a list of signups here, so we'll begin and we'll reevaluate at 15 minutes with where we are. But thank you for your cooperation in advance. So first up, when you come up to the podium, please state your name and your address. First up is Jim Kucharczyk.
Hi, nice to be back. You seem to struggle, I'm sorry, Jim Kucharczyk, 35 Maple Street here in New Canaan. This is the protocol. You seem to struggle at your last meeting to find the right words for an acceptable diversity, equity, and inclusion policy. I've done some research and I found a few examples that I think might help you move this discussion forward. I've had to edit these in the interest of time. I've made some hard copies to have the full context that I'll be happy to share at the end of my comments. Quote, "Our diversity enables us to be more reflective of the audiences we reach and enhances our ability to create programming that serves all the viewers across the country. An inclusive and diverse workplace is not merely a strategy or business objective, it is fundamentally woven into the fabric of the company." CNN, MSNBC, nope, Fox Foundation, parent of Fox News. Another one. For almost 2 centuries, our institution was characterized by the segregationist ethos of American culture. Consequently, for far too long, we allowed institutional policies regarding race to be shaped more directly by that ethos and allowed policies to remain in place that were racially hurtful. Harvard, Yale, Georgetown, nope, Bob Jones University, the 3rd most conservative university, according to niche.com, in the country. One more, we understand that the path toward better together looks different for every business. Our commitment is to approach this work with intention and humility, always believing the best in one another and striving for common ground. Google, Ben & Jerry's, nope, Chick-fil-A. I also found an ETF with the symbol MAGA that allows people to invest in companies that align to your Republican beliefs. All of their top 10 positions have DEI policies. So do niche.com's most conservative colleges and universities. The extremist position is not having a DEI policy. The extremist position is rejecting one. And bottom line, just how do you think that is going to help our kids? How will ignorance be an asset when they start jobs with the Fortune 100, all 100 of whom have DEI policies?
Time's up.
How will being from Fairfield County, a school district famous for proudly rejecting DEI, make it easier for our kids to get into highly selective colleges? It's past sad that you are willing to accept as collateral damage our kids' college prospects while you buff and polish your political ideology credentials. Thank you.
Paula Levin.
I heard the words diversity, equity, inclusion often growing up in the Soviet Union. What's bad about DEI? At face value, nothing. To the many people of goodwill in New Canaan, these words are synonymous with treating everybody with fairness, decency, and kindness. And if this is all we want and there are values that we teach our kids, why not bring DEI into our schools? Because that's not what it means. DEI is a political platform and a multifaceted attack on individual rights and free speech, in a misguided attempt to address unequal outcomes with actual discrimination. In the Soviet Union, DEI offered simple solution to educational gaps. Too many Jews in science and medicine, just limit the number of PhDs awarded to them and restrict their access to medical schools. I should know, my family left the country of our origin to escape DEI-driven discrimination in every aspect of our lives. DEI assigns privilege or disadvantage based on the most superficial categories. Your skin color, sex, religion, and sexual identity tell me nothing about your individual qualities. And ultimately, that's all we should care about. Professor Jonathan Turley wrote an article in The Hill about the school districts across the country removing advanced programs and even standardized testing to achieve an artificial appearance of equity. And Bill de Blasio in our neighboring New York eliminated the Gifted and Talented program from the city's school system, failing to understand that success is not a zero-sum game where some kids must be held back in order for other kids to step forward. In the end, it has a disempowering effect on all kids by either assigning to them unearned merit or taking away their agency. So what's the answer? First, we must continue to take an individualized approach to the academic, social, and emotional success of each student. Second, we must stomp out bullying in our school. Third, we must teach history, all of it, and honestly, the great parts and the awful parts and the tremendous progress we have made. New Canaan's BOE has always been at the forefront of all these three efforts and should continue to do so. Thank you for keeping politics out of our classrooms and for working in the best interest of all of our kids.
Kiowa Koshi.
Kiowa Kosh, 237 Hickok Road. As a woman, a mother of two girls at Sachs Middle School, as an attorney with a focus on employment law, as someone whose legal career has been in a male-dominated industry, as the cousin of a special needs man whose mom fought hard for equal treatment of her son at a time when mainstreaming wasn't the norm, and as the niece of a gay man who originally had to have supervised visits with his own daughter because the world wasn't ready to accept his, quote, lifestyle, I can speak firsthand, in my own small way, about the importance and power of diversity, equity, and inclusion. From the 19th Amendment, which theoretically gave all women the right to vote, to the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Act, which pushed us closer to a more inclusive country, to the Americans with Disabilities Act. As we have been striving for centuries to build a more inclusive, equal, and diverse nation, and to permit more people to have a seat at the table. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is not something to be frightened of. It is something to be embraced. And it is the reason that I have a voice, why my girls have a voice, why my cousin has a voice, and why my uncle has a voice. As members of the Board of Education, you have a fiduciary obligation to do your best for the children of New Canaan. Doing your best means educating yourself in areas where you don't have the expertise. It means listening to and reacting to the needs of the school system and its students. We are not alone in New Canaan in our need to address issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It is a nationwide problem. But change starts with small steps. I'm asking you to live up to your obligations and seek the expertise and information you need to do right by New Canaan students by striving to make each student feel welcome, included, equal, and heard. I am asking you to keep diversity, equity, and inclusion as a district goal and get expert advice on how to implement that goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Bonnie Aiken.
Hello, my name is Bonnie Aiken-Baker. I've been a resident for about 7 years in New Canaan. I'm American citizen. I lived abroad for about 20 years. We moved back to the US. 9 years ago, we were in Greenwich initially, and then we moved to New Canaan. And we made our decision to come to New Canaan because of everything that we saw in the town, of what we saw in terms of the values. We wanted our kids, having lived in different countries, to really develop roots and feel like strong citizens. And for when we were about to move to the US, one of my sons said to me, "Why are we moving?" And I said, "Well, we're moving to the US, and they're half German, half American." And my son said, "Yeah, but we're not going back to the US. You're American, Mom, we're not." And it like kind of really struck me to my core, where I was like, we really need to move back. These kids really need to know who they are, and what the US is all about. We moved in 2012, and it was a bit of a shock. Sandy Hook happened. Sandy the hurricane happened. The Boston shootings, and it was a really tumultuous year. But it was really an eye-opening experience for my kids to see the US is a country of extremes. There's a lot that's going on. They were in a private school at the time, an international school. I was a little worried about the diversity element because we'd lived abroad. So I thought it would be easier for them, coming in and adjusting. But the long story short of it was that we were looking for a town to really develop roots. We found New Canaan and we fell in love with the schools. We feel like we stumbled upon the best private public school around, and we've been incredibly happy. Our kids have actually thrived. And this is the first Board of Education meeting I've ever attended. I'm embarrassed to say that. I'm a working mom. I'm the CEO of my own company. And I'm very supportive of my kids. But I never thought that I'd actually be standing up here having a discussion about this topic. And I know people say that is a political term. I think it's just it's a simple human value. And to have my kids that are now in the high school saying,
Time's up.
this is a problem and they don't feel like they're heard, I'm here on behalf of my children to say, this really is a problem. C- is a problem. Please don't sweep this under the carpet. It really needs attention, and you can reassess it and
Your 2 minutes are up.
diagnose it to whatever you would like to say, but please take this seriously from everybody in the community. Thank you.
Jamie Boris.
Hi, Jamie Boris, 22 Crystal Street. It strikes me odd to see that the words diversity, equity, inclusion were vilified in a recent meeting as political when there's been no actual discussion by this board of what those words mean. Before there's a vote to eliminate DEI from district goals, there should be a discussion about what these words actually mean and how they play out in the classroom. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I would add the word belonging to this group, are not political words. Diversity is the presence of varied demographics among students, teachers, staff, and administration. It's important to remember that there are many different ways in which people are diverse. It's not just race and ethnicity, but diversity in terms of religion, disability, learning styles, sexual orientation, gender, economics, and family structure, and a multitude of other ways. Equity is often confused with equality, but it's not the same thing. Equity treats each student as an individual and gives each student the tools they need to succeed. It doesn't mean that every student gets the exact same resources or is expected to achieve the exact same outcomes. It is exactly the opposite of a one-size-fits-all approach. For some kids, equity means appropriate speech therapy. For others, it means reduced cost lunch or access to a reading specialist. Inclusion ensures that every student is treated fairly, respectfully, despite differences. It's about how people within the school interact, treat each other, their openness to each other. It's about engaging in civil discourse, valuing different perspectives, and trying to understand the experiences of others. Belonging is what happens when the D and the E and the I come together. It's when students feel accepted for who they are and valued. There is nothing political in these words. Treating students as individuals, fairly and respectfully, in a way that enables each student to feel that they belong to succeed are the best educational practices, full stop. They're how educators prepare our kids for college, for the workplace, and for life in a global society. Here in New Canaan, we pride ourselves on educational best practices. It's why so many of us chose to raise our families here, and we should not settle for anything less. Thank you.
Alicia Meyer.
Hi, Alicia Meyer, New Canaan resident and president of ABC House New Canaan. New Canaanites take pride in excellence. If you just look at any car in the parking lot, we all have car magnets talking about all the fancy schools our kids go to, the amazing club teams they play on. But nowhere do we strive for excellence more than in the crown jewel of this town, which is our school system. We've been ranked consistently #1 on a variety of niche.com, U.S. News and World Report type rankings. We've won the National Library Program of the Year. We've had a football team that's won the state championship 22 times. How did we get so good? We look to the experts. We seek out best practices. We consult or hire the best people we can find, take in their expert information, and make it work within our excellent school system. Whether the issue is school security, new math curriculum, or how to talk to teens about suicide, we rely on experts to help us find best-in-class solutions. I am a member of a different town commission. We also listen to experts. We are looking at other issues, drug prevention, domestic violence, isolation among seniors. And we seek expert guidance at a minimum to help us identify the problems and figure out a way of how we as a commission can address them. For some reason on this issue, the current BOE does not want to hire an expert. They wanted to, you guys seem to want to wipe DEI completely from the goals and don't want to hire an expert on even the watered down version of the goals. There was even suggested that maybe teachers could just this could be added to their responsibilities and they could mention it. Could you imagine what this would look like if we didn't consult the experts on like literally any other area of the New Canaan Public Schools? For instance, what if we set a district goal that we wanted a state championship football team, but we weren't going to hire any coaches with expertise and experience? That would never go down, right? That would be completely gutting the football program, and it would.
2 minutes.
I also, as president of ABC House, our scholars have asked us to do DEI work. We have hired consultant with DEI experts. Our scholars have given us the feedback that it was very helpful to them. And they would love it if the schools would do it too. I'm confident New Canaan can find a great DEI expert, and I'm asking you to join in this work and help support our students. Thank you.
Owen Hunter.
Hello, my name is Owen Hunter. I live at 70 Bennington Place, and I'm a senior at New Canaan High School. And I wanted to speak tonight in favor of including diversity and inclusion explicitly in the district's goals. New Canaan is well known for its public school system, with many families choosing to live in New Canaan for this reason. And we all agree that education matters, and as students, we learn best when we feel that our opinion is respected and that we are a valuable part of our community. Diversity and inclusion initiatives develop empathy and help create a more inclusive school environment in which every student feels welcome, regardless of their socioeconomic background, learning differences, their sexual orientation, race, or religion. Keeping diversity and inclusion in the student goals is an explicit statement to our community, our school, other communities, and to one another, that as the New Canaan public school system, we welcome everyone, and we strive to create a community of belonging. If this language in the district goals helps even a few students feel more comfortable in school, and thus improve their learning experience, it's worthwhile. Thank you for your time.
Lauren Nussbaum. Lauren Nussbaum.
Hi, Lauren Connolly Nussbaum, 65 Whiffletree Lane. I'm here tonight to ask that the BOE reinstate DEI in the district goals and engage with an expert to help us achieve those goals. Tonight, I don't speak only for myself. Last night, and again this morning due to technical difficulties, I submitted a petition to the Board of Ed and Dr. Lutzy with over 1,000 signatures on it, specifically stating that we reinstate the DEI goals and engage with an expert to help us reach those goals. I want to make that known to everyone here in the room. Over 1,000 voices have spoken. We are here and we are asking to be seen and heard and listened to. The words matter deeply. The words are the goal. Without the words, there are no actionable items that we can do anything about or with. I want to take a brief moment to say to the teachers and administrators, to those of you doing the work, we see you, we support you, we cheer for you, and we are grateful for you. And I want to say to anyone who feels marginalized or unseen, to the autistic little girl who needs a one-to-one aid to get through her day, to the super sporty little girl who wears a suit rather than a dress, to our ABC scholars, to a disabled student who is deaf and requires equity in the classroom. I know these children. I am raising some of these children. I see you, I celebrate you, And there is a room full of people standing with you, and we will keep talking, and we will keep working until diversity, equity, and inclusion are something we can all get behind and not be afraid of, and work together to see that we achieve it. Thank you.
Beth Jones.
Hi, I'm Beth Jones, 101 Harrison Avenue. I've lived in New Canaan my whole life. Graduated from New Canaan High School in 1974 when we started the ABC program. And the ABC program, which I have worked for the last 15 years, I'm so proud of, and it started because of diversity, equity, and inclusion, because that were goals New Canaan had. And I am having a really struggle to find how those things have become negative. Why we're not using Webster's definition instead of some political definition that I don't think even really exists. So I hope that you will let go of the political end of things that has never been part of our goals here in New Canaan. I've been on town council. I've spent 6 years on the Board of Selectmen. I've been involved in all sorts of things. And when it comes down to town issues, it's always nonpartisan. We've never brought a national partisan division in. And I hope that we can let go of it this time and bring diversity, equity, and inclusion back in as a goal where it belongs.
Gretchen Russell.
Gretchen Russell, 162 Wahacme Road. DEI will teach our students to see past differences of all kinds, from color to religion, ethnicity to sexual and gender identities, from IEPs and learning differences to physical or cognitive disabilities. DEI is about fostering human empathy, tolerance, understanding, and respect for people that are different. It is about belonging to a school community that ensures all students feel included, safe, and valued. It's also about preparing our students for their future in an incredibly diverse world outside of our New Canaan bubble. DEI is considered an advantage and an asset for most corporations, and the very colleges and universities our children aspire to all prioritize DEI. My son's university just championed another freshman class that includes 56% students of color, 13% students from international backgrounds from 88 different countries, and 15% students who identify as LGBTQ+. We need to prepare our students by providing them with the necessary skills, tools, and understanding to succeed in such a diverse learning environment. Blocking and diluting DEI goals will shortchange our students, and it will be a black eye for our district and our reputation, not to mention possible college acceptances, since our students won't possess a skill set that elite schools seek. DEI enriches education. It is not a distraction from academics, and it can be seamlessly integrated into our existing curriculum without sacrificing anything, just like the district did with SEL. It will better our students, our school community, and our town. I have two requests for the board tonight. The first, please reinstate the 2020 goals. The words diversity, equity, and inclusion are consequential and important, and those words matter most to the very people this goal intends to make feel welcomed, included, and safe. Second, please make the goals actionable tonight by including the hiring of an expert to help you define what DEI is. If you gave it a definition, I think a lot of the political rhetoric and the emotional words around this would clear up. Please define what it is, what it isn't, what it can be for our school district, and then please implement it as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay, so at this time, we've reached our 15-minute limit. However, I can ask for a motion from the board. Just for information, we have 10 speakers left, approximately, who have signed up. And I would also add that we have a public comment period at the end of the meeting following our goals discussion, so that's another opportunity. So I'll ask the board now if anybody would like to make a motion. Penny, second Phil. To continue, we'll allow the 10 speakers, and then we'll close at that time and reopen at the end of the meeting. So next is Alan Haas. Oh, vote, yes, all in favor, sorry. Got ahead of myself. Okay, that's unanimous, thank you. So Alan Haas.
I will give my place to someone else.
Oh, thank you. Tom O'Day. Oh, you, let's go down the list and then, yeah. Go ahead.
Good evening. Tom O'Day, 37 Holly Road. I'm a state representative for New Canaan. I've lived here since 1998, not as long as my friend Beth Jones. I think I bring somewhat of a unique perspective. In listening to the comments, we all agree with the comments that were made. You know, I didn't disagree with a single word that was said by anyone, and everybody was clapping for everybody. I think we're talking above one another, and we're not actually looking at what actually is being done here. We're arguing over a title. And I would simply respectfully request that everybody kind of put some trust in our Board of Education, our administrators. We've got the best administration in the country, certainly in the state. We were opened the next day after COVID hit because of our Board of Ed, our superintendent, administration, and our teachers. They do it right. And if you believe you need the words in the title, I would simply ask that you look at, certainly diversity is something we all want. Equity of opportunity is something we all want, not equity of outcome. And inclusion is something we all want. But what has happened is, hopefully you've all seen what happened in Cos Cob. There was that video of that teacher who was intentionally not hiring Catholics. I'm a cradle Catholic. And he was intentionally not hiring older people because he didn't want to have any conservative beliefs. I'd also ask you to think about how the fact that we have surrounding school districts that don't have Republican clubs because teachers are literally crying at the thought of having to have a Republican club at school. Imagine if it was a Democratic club that wasn't allowed to open up and kids were bullied for being Democrats. That wouldn't happen, not on my watch. But it is happening in our state and in our town. So, not in our town, but in our communities, surrounding communities. And so I believe, arguing about the title, we're missing an opportunity. This school system is the best in the state for a reason, and one of the best in the country. And it's because of our Board of Ed and our administrators and our teachers. I think the words put together, diversity, equity, and inclusion, are a pathway to a problem. And we don't need the words to be in the title. To be implemented, the goals as I see them and saw them, New Canaan Public School System will strive to deepen students' understanding of a range of differences among people. NCPS will work to foster empathy and respect for all and to celebrate the unique and varied contributions each of us makes in this community. I think we are going to do everything you all want us to do. And I just ask that we respectfully listen to one another and support one another. Thank you.
Joe Miller. Joe Miller. Alessia Miller. Oh. Okay.
Hi, Joe Miller, North Wilton Road. I have a message from a friend who couldn't be here in person and just wanted to relay it for
Is this message from a resident of New Canaan?
Public school system of Fairfax County in Northern Virginia. And
No, it needs to be, this is for citizens of New Canaan.
I figured it's education, this is part of the education committee.
No, public comments are from residents of New Canaan. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Alessia Miller?
I live with him. I thank the board for remaining steadfast in evaluating the need to hire an expert for the district goals relating to DEI at this time. The draft 2022 goals clearly incorporate and utilize language from the 2021 goals. However, the 2022 version simply does so in a concise manner. I'm not sure why the confusion has arisen that the 2022 goals have somehow removed DEI in its entirety. Aren't the values that underlie the concept of DEI more important to include in the goals than the acronym? Hiring a consultant to evaluate district goals on DEI is an unnecessary expenditure of taxpayer dollars that can be appropriated elsewhere, perhaps towards supplies that the teachers desperately need, since parents receive a wish list for items needed for our children's day-to-day education that are not provided by the district. I find that to be one of the most pressing issues before the board, and utilizing funds for a DEI expert when teachers need supplies for our children is a slap in the face to all members of the community, simultaneously undermining each teacher in New Canaan, as blatantly stating that we do not have confidence that they are adequately teaching our children and need to seek the opinion of an outside expert. There is no way to ensure that the DEI expert themselves have no inherent bias, such that their report would be free of any partiality and can be utilized as the basis for any decision regarding our district goals. Even professionals who dedicate their careers to DEI always have more to learn. There is no formulaic way to measure a DEI consultant's level of expertise. The idea of a DEI expert is impossible. Simply put, no one person can know all there is to know about every group and culture on the planet. If the board or other members of the community need an expert opinion, who better to look toward than the education committees of the House and Senate, who have spent significant time researching, analyzing, and speaking with the public to create bills and laws that directly address these issues and give districts specific instructions on how to formulate their own curriculums and goals. I believe that no one would argue that the collective, diverse backgrounds, education, and experience of the entirety of the members of the Connecticut State Legislature provide significant enough shared expertise so as to obviate the need for an outside expert. Our teachers and schools have been applauded for their efforts to make all students feel included, treating everyone equally, embracing diverse backgrounds, and incorporating these elements into their lesson plans. The values that our school are teaching, which address every element under the umbrella of DEI, and continuing to do so under the 2022 goals as guidance, are proof enough that there is no need for a DEI expert.
Maria Cepeda. Marie, sorry.
Good evening, everyone. Bear with me, Park Street. I'm a little nervous, not because I'm in a room full of people that don't really look like me, but simply because I know that the statement that I prepared is probably not what you expect me to say, which is that I am not, or really have never been, a proponent of DEI and CRT and open choice based on my own lived experience and truth as a Black woman living in America. I believe that promoting DEI, CRT, open choice over school choice ignores root issues, issues that are policy failures at the state and federal levels. How well can a child do in a place that feels foreign when they're told something like, and I've heard this in many districts, grading is racist, so maybe we should eliminate the idea of grading to make sure that a certain individual doesn't feel bad for scoring lower. Oftentimes that's geared towards a white child, rather than challenging minorities to achieve and figuring out how their environment outside the school, sometimes that lacks supervision, resources, etc., may affect them, and how to alleviate those burdens that do not racially discriminate. How is something like open choice any different than when white Americans who took indigenous children out of their homes for a quote-unquote better education, it only served to harm the legacy of that culture. 58 years after the signing of the Civil Rights Act, we are now here, back where they were, because progressivism feels like regression to me. If you believe you need an expert in schools to teach your kids about minorities or people that are different from you, then maybe those individuals need to look deep within themselves and sit with those thoughts. Black and brown children, or LGBTQ, or any person that feels different than what is quote unquote normal, which is a relative term, are simply children. We should aim to teach children, all children, about how to be a good person, about kindness, compassion, and empathy, which are lessons taught at home. To bring that into the school is to say that parents cannot parent their children. Let's stop looking through the myopic lens of self-actualization and actually consider the children's individual needs. Let's stop politicizing children and start holding government responsible for providing a quality of life that allows to thrive anywhere and bring focus of education back to their own ambitions and success. And I'll just end with this, if you'll allow me. At the end of the day, we too are Americans, all of us that sit here, that strive to be seen as individuals with value, judged for the content of our character, not for the color of our skin. And yet I believe things like DEI and CRT, what have you, does nothing but judge people, not for the content of their character, of our students, but for the color of their skin. It assumes their character, and that is wrong. Thank you.
Karis Homestead. Karis Homestead.
Karis Homestead, soon to be 45 Luke's Wood. Currently with the in-laws, not proud of that. I wanted to thank each of you tonight for letting me speak and also the job that you do. It is sometimes a thankless task, but you do a great job. In my short speech tonight, I will offer both philosophical and practical reasons why I oppose retaining DEI instructors for our school system. First, and I won't say it as eloquently as our last speaker, but DEI runs counter to the civil rights achievements and legislations during the 1960s, and in particular creates a gross transmutation of Martin Luther King's words. Instead of judging individuals by the content of their character, we are instructed to make race or gender or sexual preference paramount to how we should be evaluated or judged. We cannot endorse this. Second, our civic religion says we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. DEI does not teach that all men are created equal, but fosters the opposite in the name of equity, which seeks for the same results and runs counter to my civic religion. Now I will offer 3 practical reasons. First, and we've been told tonight, trust the experts. What experts are we referring to? Are we referring to the experts who over the last 40 years have governed as our educational system that spends 50% more per student than any country in the world and yet scores 38th in math and 28th in science? Or the union experts that advocated for keeping schools closed for COVID and keeping masks on in places where entire European countries did neither? Those are the same experts that now carry the burden for explaining the results of last week's NAEP scores, which by any standards are a calamity and set our children back by 20 years. I'm sorry, I will not defer to experts who seem to have failed every step on the way. Can anyone in this room point to an expert statistically driven report that shows that DEI delivers better educational outcomes for our children in K-12 schools? I have scoured far and wide and have yet to find a single example, and yet will quote from examples where it's done the opposite. Second, I quote, we know we have a problem with diversity in our town.
2 minutes.
I'm not even close. I really apologize. But there was a poll taken, and I want to say, here's what the poll should ask, all right? To combat New Canaan High School's 5% drop in reading comprehension during the COVID crisis, would you prefer to allocate $50,000 to more programs to address that decline, or $50,000 to a DEI expert?
We have other speakers.
I know, I'm so close. Darien hired a DEI instructor who co-authored an essay titled Grading is Capitalist, Racist, and Exploitative. Would you allocate $50,000 to hire that expert? Last one. And I really had some awesome zingers, and I can't get to them. All right, and finally, everyone should be reminded that, quote, governments are instituted among men deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That consent on a local level was voted and given in the election last fall for many of you who are on this board. New candidates were elected by consent and were elected to maintain and enhance our educational standards. It should not be lost on anyone in this room that the issues of DEI and critical race theory were openly discussed and espoused by certain candidates, and those candidates roundly lost. New Canaan citizens voted already on this topic, and it would be a gross neglect to that consent of the government.
You can finish your comments at the end. Thank you. Matt Campbell.
Thank you. So I watched last BOE meeting, and I was amazed at why we're still discussing this DEI issue, especially since we had an election less than a year ago, which was essentially a referendum on DEI and CRT initiatives in our school. Why would we look for outside experts to educate our children on moral issues? Does that expert hold the same moral beliefs as our school community? Of course not. That's because DEI is nothing more than a euphemism for indoctrination. If we are deceived into buying a DEI hammer, everything will be a nail. This entire discussion is beyond the purview of this board. Why are some of you so intent on infiltrating our dinner table discussions with our children? You should be focused on undoing the academic damage done by your COVID measures and not on subverting parents. To those who feel like your child needs a moral compass to navigate a world that looks different than New Canaan, give them one. Be a better parent. Teach your children about other cultures. Teach them to be more caring and to stand up for others. Teach them whatever moral code you want. That's your job and not the job of the BOE. To those who feel that they were unprepared for life, blame your parents. It was their responsibility to prepare you. If you didn't read enough books by black authors, blame your parents. I bet they have Amazon Prime. If you were academically unprepared, blame the school and blame your parents for moving here. I have 3 children in the school system, and including a disabled child. Have they faced microaggressions? Sure. What did I do about it? I rarely did anything. I told them to shake it off and get over it. Not everyone is going to like you, understand you, or your beliefs or your culture. That's how you prepare your child for the world outside of New Canaan. Even though minorities are used to wheel the DEI Trojan horse to the gates, this isn't about minorities. We're here for education just like everyone else. If diversity was so important to me, I would use that as a factor when deciding where to raise my family. I don't need your sympathy, condescension, or guilt. DEI is a Trojan horse of indoctrination and Marxist division under the guise of virtue. We are the protectors of our children and our morals. We cannot allow such a thinly veiled threat to penetrate our community or our schools.
Matt Nussbaum.
Good evening. My name is Matt Nussbaum. I live at 65 Whiffletree Lane. I actually did not grow up in New Canaan, full disclosure. I never attended a single year of public school. From kindergarten through graduate school, I went to 20 consecutive years of Catholic schooling, so also a cradle Catholic. Spoiler alert, I come down, I think, in a different place than the previous speaker with a background similar to mine. I've been here, and I've been a New Canaanite for 10 years. My wife and I are the proud parents of 3 daughters in New Canaan Public Schools. Our youngest daughter, who is autistic, has been the beneficiary of special education resources that, quite frankly, have been a godsend. I say all this because I've seen firsthand, time and again, that there's almost nothing that the teachers and the administrators of this school district can't do and can't handle with talent, with maturity, with purpose, with patience, with humility, with nuance, you name it. I came tonight because I'm gravely concerned by the efforts of some to water down the district's goals relating to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm here tonight because I believe that words matter. I believe that the words in these goals matter. And I believe the words matter not just because of downstream consequences relating to budgets and to resources, although those things are very, very important. I think it's deeper than that. These goals speak to our priorities as a community. They send a message. They speak to our willingness to accept, to respect, and to include those who have viewpoints, backgrounds, and capabilities that are different from the so-called norm. And they speak to the trust and the confidence we're prepared to place in the folks who get up every day and prepare our kids for life in the real world. I have tremendous confidence in the teachers and the administrators of this school district. I think it's a mistake to water down these goals. And if anything, on DEI issues, I think that we should be aiming higher. Thank you.
Jeff Perconti.
Hi, my name is Jeff Perconti. I live on Southwood Drive. I first want to say thank you to each of you. I appreciate you hearing all of us out. I appreciate the work that you do, whether I agree with your position or not. I do want to say that we've heard a lot of, I think, feelings tonight. I think we've heard a lot of what people think. But we've only heard from one student. And what struck me when I saw what the board was doing with these goals was how little discussion there was of the actual experience that schools have had with this over the last 2 years that we've had it. It was a local school board that put these goals into effect. it has been administered over the last 2 years. What we're not hearing is what has the experience been? And what concerns me is that we are taking action in a way that is not based on evidence. It is based on explanations, many of which, respectfully, I believe are somewhat conclusory. So I would just ask, what have we done to see what the experience of our children have been with these programs? That's what should formulate what we do next. And what I'm concerned about, whether you want to call it an expert, a consultant, or whoever, is who is going to evaluate that? Who is going to tell the board that, how it is affecting your children? Because there's been a lot of talk about transparency, and I am in favor of that. So let's have it be transparent. Let's have somebody come in and say, this is how this is operating in your schools. Here's something you can do and something you can't do, or you shouldn't do, or you should do, and then make a local decision as to what the goal should be. From where I'm coming at this and seeing is what I'm concerned about is right now, this decision that's being made is being done without that evidentiary background. And I would ask the board to at least reconsider that and put us on the path to whether these meetings don't have to be perhaps as emotional. It can be more based on what it is our kids are actually experiencing in the schools. Thank you.
Norman Kalarjian, and then we'll have one last speaker, which is, I think, the woman who was going to take the time.
Hello.
Whoever you seated your time. Hi.
Hi, Norman Kalarjian. I live on Valley Road with my wife Danielle and our 2 children who are enrolled in East School. We moved to town in 2017, and the school system was a big part of why. We knew diversity score could have been better, but we were optimistic things, at least locally at the time, were headed in the right direction. How could they not be? For a while, seemed to be the case. Real bipartisanship on the board, DEI objectives recently being introduced. And then a new majority takes over, and one of the first agenda items of the new majority is to remove those DEI objectives. And not only that, denigration of expertise, right? Imagine a school board, it's kind of oxymoronic, denigrating expertise, right? How about that? It's chilling. The Board of Education, right? Not the Board of Indoctrination. Removing the objective sets the community back, sets our kids back. Some people hate the word diversity. They don't like the words equity and inclusion for whatever reason. I don't know why. Maybe they don't understand them. Maybe they need expertise. They need somebody to teach them about it. The bottom line is DEI is not separate and apart from academics. That is a red herring. It's wrong. Everybody knows it. DEI is integral to education and academics. Every organization, every corporation, college, university, healthcare organization, pension fund, Harvard, Penn, Cornell, all the Ivies, state, local community colleges, US, internationally, in the entire developed world, they all have DEI offices. They integrate DEI into their objectives. They think about it both in terms of how they're building their staff, but also how they're shaping their curriculums. Everybody knows it. It's not new. DEI is not controversial. It's definitely not radical. It's not political or part of an agenda to indoctrinate kids, as some people are arguing. It's absurd. That's embarrassing to be saying. It's standard terminology. It's standard nomenclature. We don't need to reinvent it. If anything, it's more accurate to say that not including it and the considerations are some form of indoctrination. We just want to prepare our kids for the real world. This is a school board, not some imaginary alternative world that we want to make great again somehow. At the end of the day, whether you like it or not, the world is changing. The town is changing. We need to be abreast of that. And you can fight it, but you're only hurting the kids. Thank you.
This is our final speaker.
Springwood, thank you very much. I'm here tonight to support BOE's decision to remove DEI in our school goals, and we do not need a so-called expert on this, because we have a great team of staff and teachers. They are not only the experts, they know what they're doing. Our teachers in the classroom, they are the ones who actually practice and deliver all educational principles to our kids. And I cannot elaborate on this. But I want to say special thanks to Mr. Tischler. As my own child and my best friend, or maybe they are in the 2 ends of a bell shape, but I know how hard Mr. Tischler and the entire special education department, they're working to find a specialist, to meet every single student with the special study needs, to meet their needs. That's my interpretation of inclusion. I'm not trying to play the name game. Well, English might not my native language, so I'm not gonna interpret the words, but okay. So, and I think we're fortunate enough in New Canaan. We have board and administration with open mind, willing and eager to learn new stuff. And recent study has shown DEI is actually harmful to the students in behavior, principle, academic achievement, mental health, among other things. Please don't make New Canaan the next human guinea pig. DEI is not the solution for social emotional learning. And DEI expert will not improve New Canaan diversity ranking from C to A. I want to share something. The most recent research as of May 2022, 7 states have already imposed bans and restrictions either through passing legislation or other avenues to outlaw the use of DEI in its schools. And the 9 other states are in the midst of developing and passing the same legislation. Diversity, well, whatever you call it, equality or equity and inclusion, I think 3 beautiful words. But what worries me is...
2 minutes.
Oh, okay. I just want to say, not all the good tension gonna necessarily bring good results. Be cautious. Thank you very much.
Not related to DEI, just extracurricular activity. It'll be unified, I promise.
We're, yeah, we'll have,
About, no? Okay.
it's a public comment?
Yeah, it is. Just for me about the enrichment activities for like STEM.
About a different topic.
It's a different topic? Yes, go ahead. We'll allow it, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, trust me. Again. So we went to sign up our oldest child for the enrichment activities that were offered in the school last year. Most of them were STEM-related activities. I think he did science last year in kindergarten. We went to enroll him again this year, anticipating chemistry, and we were shocked to find that it wasn't there. None of them were there. They're still there in Darien. We can enroll through Darien, or Darien students can enroll, but we can't. So for whatever reason it's not up there, I hope it's a mistake. If it is down for a reason, I just kindly consider you to ask to reinstate those extracurricular activities, especially with the backdrop of the decrease in academics across the state. Thanks.
Thank you to all the community for your comments and for coming out tonight. We'll move on with our regular business, and like I said before, we'll have public comments again at the end of the meeting for those wishing to address the board again. Now we'll move on to our reports and recognition part of our meeting, and first on our agenda tonight is a very exciting topic, the Planetarium renovation update, and tonight Dr. Lutzy will introduce it, and we have members of our renovation committee here, and I hope you all will stay and listen.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. One of the challenges of our meetings is that we have all these non sequiturs as we move through different topics. So I am thrilled to have the opportunity to introduce Sarah and Erica, 2 of the hardest working people I know, and to talk just very briefly about the Planetarium initiative that is now underway, which they will share much more information about this. But years ago, about 5 years ago, we started to pursue a renovation of the Planetarium, and then we all know what happened, and our priorities were elsewhere, and it's just so thrilling and exciting to have the opportunity now to re-engage and to do this work and create this space for our students. I'm sure that you will share the history a bit, but I can't help myself. Just a little bit. Thank you. So the Planetarium here at the high school, I shared a story yesterday morning with parents over at the East Welcome Back Coffee, which was back when I became principal at New Canaan High School in 2011. My children were so excited because they thought that I was coming to a high school that had a pool. And we didn't have a pool in my old high school, and they thought they could use the pool when they came to visit Dad. And they were sorely disappointed when I told them that we didn't have a pool. And the reason New Canaan High School doesn't have a pool, because I think in their wisdom, years ago, the building committee in the late 60s was faced with a choice. Do we put in a pool or do something else with the funds? And they talked together and realized that there are pools right across the street at the YMCA. So why not do something different and creative that will have an educational benefit for all of our children? And I think in their wisdom, they made the decision to put in a planetarium instead on the third floor up on the science wing. That was back in 1970. That was the last significant investment that's been made in the planetarium, although it has served us very well through the years as what we would call dots on a dome, a traditional planetarium. As we know, in the last couple of years, technology has changed significantly. And as we've researched what we could do for the renovation to the planetarium, we've come to learn that with a modest enough investment, we could go transform the space from the dots on a dome that it is into what we would call a collective, immersive virtual reality experience. And the new technology that's available will benefit not only our students in astronomy class, but our students here in the high school in all disciplines, thanks to the content that's available, and beyond, given the availability of resources for our middle school students, for our elementary school students. We have the great fortune of being located here with 2/3 of our students within walking distance, and over at East and over at West, it's simply a bus ride away. So as we've done this research and put together the proposal here, we've been talking with the town who provided partial funding, and we've had the great fortune of having an incredibly engaged group of the community members, parents and friends, of whom, again, Sarah and Erica are amongst and leading the group in many ways, helping to guide our path as we've raised the funds in order to really transform this wonderful space into the crown jewel of our K-12 educational program. And not just here in the schools, but it also becomes a community resource in that the barrier to entry, the skills needed to run the planetarium, go from the master's degree in astronomy to something an English teacher could probably do. So we're very excited and thrilled. And just one last piece to this. In the existing planetarium and the technology that we're used to, we would, again, it would be a teacher-driven show. And they would show the stars, and it would be very traditional. Now this new technology allows our students not just to be consumers of the shows, but also producers of the shows. So we know that good schools teach students how to read and interpret poetry, and great schools teach them how to write their own. I see this as a similar thing, where we're not just going to be able to show our students these amazing shows, but also give them the tools and the resources to create amazing shows of their own, using their own imagination, their own skills and knowledge. So it's a very exciting time, and certainly, I'll stop. But the very last piece, I think we're at the dawn of a new space age as well. Circling back to the astronomy, we think about the James Webb Telescope, the NASA launch that will be occurring shortly as they send a ship up to the moon and back, talking about how to continue to explore and expand. We currently have a rover on Mars. We have a helicopter that's flying on Mars. It's just an amazing time, and we're just getting started. And so I think the timing of the planetarium and the renovation and the opportunity to provide this resource for all of our students has never been better. And it's a very exciting program, initiative, and I couldn't be more grateful to both of you and to everybody who's working so hard to see this through. And with that, I could say more. With that introduction, let me turn it over to Sarah and Erica to share some of the amazing work that they've been doing on our students' behalf.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Lutzy, and the rest of the board and everyone that's here tonight. First of all, I'm a very proud alumni and graduate of New Canaan High School, and I actually did take astronomy class in that very room without a single thing changing except a bit more dust, if you've had the opportunity to see it. Speaking from someone that was not a science background person, I went into teaching myself, and English was my major in elementary teaching, so this project is near and dear to my heart for more than one reason. And I was so thrilled and honored to be asked to be a part of the committee and then to chair the committee. So I thank you for the opportunity, and I'm hoping you look in the mirror for the hardworking people that you described, because we're mere mortals here. So tonight we just wanted to give you an update. It's been 4 months since we've constructed this committee, believe it or not, and a lot of work has been done, and we're excited to share it and want to do it on a high level and quickly and bring a positive breath into the space. There are a lot of wonderful things that happen and a lot of collective work that goes into it. So this is something that hopefully everyone will get on board with and be excited about and join us in it. So this is the planetarium and its existence and we have opportunities for you to get into the space if you'd like to see it a little closer up. And what we would like to tell you about is basically our mission. our mission, as we know it, is to create a state-of-the-art, immersive, and interactive learning theater out of the Planetarium. So the Planetarium as we know it, which is what Dr. Letzi said, is simply, it's stars and dots on a dome and constellations, and those of us that all have been in planetariums, that's what we've seen, and it was wonderful, and it does teach you and educate you about that specific skill, but the new space will take you across disciplines and take you far and wide within science. And what 2 digital cameras can do and projectors can do that is mind-blowing compared to what 1971 technology was. So for anyone that has a VR, have you ever put a VR on? This will be collective experience for all students to be in that space and seeing it together and experiencing it together like nothing any classroom has given them to this time. So we're very excited. So soup to nuts, we need the entire room renovated, and equipment, sound, lighting, seating, digital technology. And in order to make this happen, obviously, a committee needs to be formed to get the funds going a bit. So I would love to introduce my phenomenal committee. And there's many of the members here tonight. So Jane Benton, if you'll stand up, Jill Carls, Elizabeth Demuth, Lauren Erickson, Megan Gould, Jen Hladek, Lydia Kremer, Carrie Kurtz, Janet Lee, Lauren Nussbaum, Katrina Parkhill, and Erica Schwedel next to me. So I want to embarrass them a little bit and actually give them props. Each member has served on at least one PTC or PFA board. Each member brings varied and extreme, amazing skill sets and talents to this committee. And each member does represent every school and level and age group within our community. We felt that was very important. And I'd be remiss if I did not share with you that for the last 4 months, every other week, this committee has assembled together for what would be supposedly an hour to 2 meeting that turned into 3 or plus hours, plus subcommittees in there, including the summer holidays. And I'm going to share with you that zooming in from Maine to California and as close as New Canaan and as far as even Chile, we had the most amazingly dedicated committee, and I can't even dialing in from cars, camp runs, and airports. So when I tell you I've worked with many, many people and done many different committees, this is top Class A group of people doing this, so thank you. On top of the regular committee meetings, we've had subcommittees formed. So we needed a marketing committee to have a marketing plan for how we're rolling this out. If my kids could raise the funds, they were like, why don't you just go out and ask and make a couple of TikToks and it'll be done? Why are you spending all this time talking about it and not just going and getting that money? So they have been learning the process too, which has been fun. A development strategy, how are we going to roll this out, and how are we going to get everyone on board and understanding within the community? Because many members that actually graduated from New Canaan High School still live here, have never heard that there's a planetarium. So it's a wonderful secret that is hopefully going to be a crown jewel for everyone. Events to educate, spread awareness, and gain support. And a grants committee to actively research potential funds that can assist with the building and some of these funds, and also once it's built, to help with the programming to keep it going for the future. So with all this work being done, part of the idea is the New Canaan High School, the name on the plaque is the Planetarium. Very creative. It's worked well for 51 years. We sat around and said it's probably time to update that as well. And so we spent a lot of time and talked in committee trying to figure out what would be a great name and how to identify the space and making it cool and edgy for the kids, and lots of different ideas. And we ended up coming up with the Dome at New Canaan High School. We will market it this way for the greater population to know where the location is, but obviously within this building, we will be getting rid of the at New Canaan High School for the actual site. So the kids will refer to it as the Dome. It actually speaks to the physical space of what it is. You gather together under that dome and you look up and you see the immersive nature of it, and you're impacted by what is being shown on top of it. We were thrilled to work once again with Kara Homan, who's a graphic designer who's been helping the New Canaan High School, I believe, for 6 years, and before that it was Saks. She's branded and logoed many of the things we've worked in the district for, and she has helped come up with the logo and the image, and had sent many, many different versions through, and Dr. Lutzy and the administrators and some teachers and the committee, and we've looked through them and talked about all the reasons of what to go with and narrowed it down, and after a lot of discussion, ended up choosing unanimously, actually came to this image. So if you look at it, it reflects that space, actually reflects the shape of the dome, and just the physical space and the ever-changing applications that we'll be having. It's very fluid, the colors blend into each other, and so hopefully you'll see it as well as we do. There's a modernness about it, and one of the things that several people said was the perspective. You don't know, one can enter one way versus another way, and just the futuristic standpoints of it. For me, when the perspective piece came up from many people, I loved that word and I loved that concept, because for me as an educator and having 4 children in the district, the teachers in this district always look at every perspective for the kids, and they want them to look at the other children's and students' perspectives. And that, to me, sold me on that once everyone was saying those words. So, moving along, we have our fundraising goal that was set, which is for the overall planetarium to be renovated fully and create this wonderful new space, is $850,000. And the town of New Canaan has invested it, $350,000 towards it. We'd like to thank all the early supporters that have come in, including 100% of the Board of Education. I want to thank you on behalf of the committee for your 100% commitment and participation in donating. And our committee has also stepped up, and 100% of us have donated from our own homes to this project, and we all believe in it, and we share that belief, and we're all here to see it through to the end. So we're very excited tonight to announce that we have raised $440,250 as of literally a couple hours ago. And we have just shy of a little more. So it brings us to why we're here tonight as well, is we're kicking off and launching the rest of this campaign, and we welcome any conversations and more in-depth discussions with any of you that would like to learn more. And in closing, just want to thank you for the time that you gave us tonight to present this, and to ask anyone watching or anyone here that hasn't heard of this, please follow us on all of the social media, check out our website. Feel free to, if you are so inclined, to also choose to donate and support this wonderful initiative that the district, this will set us apart from everyone. As usual, New Canaan is a leading forefront, and this will not only be beneficial to all of our students within this, the planetarium now has lasted for 51 years. This will last easily for 50 more. So for me, I've donated to sports fields, I've donated to lessons, I've donated to wonderful arts and all these different things. This is an academic investment that will affect everyone in this community, should they choose to take advantage of it. So I thank you for the time, the opportunity, and for listening.
So Sarah covered a lot, so I don't have all that much to add. As you all know, I am the Board of Ed rep for this project, and I've been thrilled to be involved and support something that is deeply academic in our community. I'm particularly excited about, as Dr. Lutzy was saying, the cross-disciplinary learning, and the fact that you can do work in the hard sciences, we can actually display in history and in English, and we can use it for so many different opportunities, and the opportunities for students to create, as Dr. Lutzy said, is just incredible. I want to add my thanks to Sarah's, thanks to our dedicated committee who's here tonight, thanks to the town for their anchor support for the project, the Board of Ed for all of our support, and to Sarah herself, who has spent literally hundreds of hours over the last 4 months getting us to here. And this is basically our public launch of it. It's taken so much work to get here, and she has been really the leader of this. And so I'm just so grateful that she's been, took this on from the moment. And I know a lot of you were there when we had the demonstration of what could be in the space, and a lot of excitement at that time. And Sarah was one of the first people to say, "How can I help? What can I do?" And when we said, "Please be chair," she actually said yes. So really grateful to have her as as a part of this. There's a lot of work ahead still. As Sarah said, we're, give or take halfway to our financial goal. So all of your help, everybody here, please help us get the word out about this. But I think this is a truly tremendous asset, and I really can't wait to see us have this be a part of our schools and our community. So if anybody has any questions, happy to answer them, or any comments about the project.
Thank you both, and my personal thanks to Sarah, Erica, and the whole committee as well. I've watched a lot of this unfold, and it's really been a labor of love and heart, so thank you all. Any questions or comments from the board? Nope. Benny?
Just thank you for what you're doing, and as you have your events, come back to us, and if we can give you a boost of publicity on them at the Board of Ed, we'd love to do that too.
Absolutely. You'll be seeing us hopefully everywhere. We have magnets and stickers and banners and things coming all tomorrow in time for the open houses, and we will be updating all school newsletters, and I'm counting on all the principals who I'll be reaching out to keep it going there too. And I've hit up the science department here also. They're all on it too. So yes, please, anyone that wants to be at an event, we'll be doing small coffees and different things. We're not going to do a huge gala because that costs money, and we really need the money to do this. So every penny is going into what we're raising it for. So appreciate any comments. Anyone that would like to host one, anyone that wants to talk one-on-one, available, and info, you can email at info or find me anywhere.
Great, thank you. And I'd also add my thanks to Dr. Correnti and Melinda Meyer, Matt Salvestrini, who have been really helpful in helping us develop and create the vision for what this can be and the tie-in for all of our students as we move forward and think about it. So thank you to you and all the teachers science teachers who've been involved as well. Okay, so next up is our very exciting opening of schools report, as this is our now second week of schools. So Dr. Lutzy, I'll let you kick that off.
I would love to. Each year, as in our first meeting in September after schools open, we invite our building administrators to join us at a Board of Education meeting to give us a brief update about their experiences as the new year gets underway. Tonight, we have a couple of folks filling in for our building principals, and we're grateful for that. 2 assistant principals here, along with our building principals, and actually 4 assistant principals are here with us tonight. Thank you all for coming. It's always a mystery what order we're going to call the principals up in. So I'm thrilled to say tonight we'll begin with Jan Murphy over at West. And Trish, our assistant principal from West, is here as well. But really, this is an opportunity just to share a little bit of feedback about the opening of school. And if the board has any questions, you're certainly welcome to ask. But
I get the privilege of being first.
Yeah.
So thankfully, we always kind of joke with one another about who's going to be first. I love going first because then I can sit down and relax all night. So, but on behalf of West School, the parents, the students, the teachers, and the staff, I want to thank you for we had a great opening this year. It was so nice to kind of have a feeling of being normal again. I think it was great that the kids could come into school, they could meet their teachers, they could see the school, the parents got to come in, we got to welcome our newest kids, both kindergarten and our new to West kids. So it was I was telling Trish, because this was her first opening as an administrator, it's very different from being a teacher, and I said, it's probably up there with my top five openings of smoothest openings this year. So, and a lot of it, I will say gratitude and thanks to Trish, because you're really a hard worker behind the scenes. So thanks for everything. So every year at West School, we sort of start the year off with what we call our Proud to Read Aloud. And every year we choose a book that has a really wide appeal to both adults and children. And we share the book with families in January. And this year, the book that we chose is called What Do You Do with an Idea? And it's a book about a little boy who has this giant, big idea that just follows him around for a long, long time. And then finally, he realizes that this big idea can help him change the world. And it's such a universal message for kids. So we chose this book to kick off our school year this year. We'll be reading it with the kids. The teachers will be sharing some guiding questions for parents to read it at home with their families. And we're just kind of excited about starting fresh and starting off with a new idea and using the book across all things that we do this year. We did start the year with our new school start times, and I'm happy to report that that is going very smoothly at West. We had our new teacher district orientation on Wednesday. We had 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but West specifically held an orientation for our new certified staff members. We welcomed 9 certified staff members, 2 building subs, a long-term sub, and a part-time Spanish teacher. We had lunch together, a small little lunch together, toured the building, and we did some housekeeping, taught them a little bit about teacher evaluation, and sort of did a nice personal welcome for them at West. On August 27th, we welcomed 23 brand new students to West, which was really nice. Miss Gracia, our assistant principal, took the students on a scavenger hunt, a little clue oriented scavenger hunt to get them more familiar with the building. While I sat and talked with parents, welcomed them to West, and then took them on a tour of the building. And I think that went a long way for our new families to kind of get to know, at a more personal, smaller level, a little bit more about West School. We held our meet and greet on August 24th, which was the first day back with our teachers. And I think of all the school events, I do believe New to West is important, but that one is so important for kids because they actually got to come in. They got to actually see their teacher live and in person, see their classrooms, learn how to navigate the building, and feel a little bit relieved and not so nervous about the first day. So I think those 30 minutes that we spend every year at the beginning of the year, and we all do it, really went a long way this year, especially after the years that we've had. Our teachers did attend professional learning on the 25th and 26th, and at all of our schools, I know our faculty spent a lot of time examining academic, behavioral, and social and emotional data to really get to know the students and really be able to form those strong connections that we know are so important. It was a great first day at West. It was a great first week at West. We had our central office administrators on hand to help us greet the buses on Monday morning. Students in grades 1 through 4 were excited to begin their first day of our new school year, and the kindergarten students came in with their parents or guardians to visit for an hour to get to know the classroom and to meet their teacher and get to know some of the routines and procedures in kindergarten. We have a total enrollment as of today of 435 students, that's in grades K through 4, with 42 students in our pre-K program. We actually have 4 sections of pre-K now. We house the district's 3- and 4-year-old pre-K program. We added a section to kindergarten this year, so we're up to 5 sections. Added a section of grade 1, we're up to 5 sections. And then grade 2 and 3 transferred up to 5 sections each. And grade 4, because of the larger Board of Ed guidelines, we're at 4 sections, and still with low class numbers in each class size. In regard to building and grounds, all of the classrooms in our building 3 were painted a beautiful gray color. The teachers are reporting that the color seems to be calming for the kids, so I'm not sure if there's any research behind that, but it certainly does look really nice, and it cleaned up the room. It cleaned up the way the rooms looked. We had the carpeting in our music rooms and our string rooms replaced with a nice blue coloring, similar to what we have in the office, and vinyl flooring. So our music teachers are very thankful for that. And the fun part is 12 of our K through 4 classrooms received new smart boards this summer and attended training under the guidance of Matt Salvestrini, our Director of Digital Learning, on how to use them. So those are all being used in the classroom. In regard to our West School PTC, ever so generous all the time, they were able to purchase with summer funding 2 brand new school signs. So if you're ever driving by West School, we have a brand new sign right in the front, and then we have another street sign that included the logo that we had from our Blue Ribbon Award in 2018. PTC provided a delicious teacher appreciation lunch, and I think that's by far the favorite staff day of the week, that first week back. Complete with sandwiches, salads, dessert bar, and a candy bar filled with yummy sugar-filled treats. Teachers always love that. Other things that are happening at West, we have our new Right at School program, the after-school program that's gotten off without a hitch. That seems to be running very smoothly. We continue to have our early bird program available for parents in the morning that need childcare before school begins at 8:40. Kids are back to using their pen pads in the lunchroom, and it's amazing how quickly it's a six-digit code, that they're learning those pen pads, and I attribute that to them knowing how to operate their iPads and parents' iPhones. Our outdoor learning center continues to be a hub of our school. It's used for breaks, for kids going outside, for snacks, so we are still appreciative and very much using that space. We were able, at our administrative retreat before school started, to examine some of our school climate data, and we will be bringing that to our school climate team in another week or so to come up with some goals that address our school climate data. We're focusing on the area called Sense of Social and Emotional Security, and we are going to be developing a learning community goal using that data that all of our staff at West are going to be having what we're calling a shared commitment for student expectations at West, so that students will feel emotionally safe and feel secure at school. We also initiated what we're calling Getting to Know West again, because for the past couple of years, some of our expectations in different areas have changed, like the bus and the playground. And so we re-examined a lot of our expectations for kids in regard to walking the hallways, different voice levels, lunchroom expectations, bus expectations, and really kind of doing a reset on all of those. And our staff shares that same commitment, and so the kids are getting the message all across the school from everyone, the same message for that consistency, and really to make them feel emotionally safe. We continue to use our morning meetings and closing circles as a tool to build classroom community. We continue with our ruler approach to our emotional intelligence work. We're implementing the tools. Kids will be creating classroom charters using the mood meter, the meta moment blueprint. And this year we are continuing our work on differentiation of instruction with paying attention to the routines and expectations that we need to make sure are in place to be able to have, implement a differentiation or workshop model and be successful throughout the year. We are using a program called Hegarty in grades K and 1, which is daily phonemic awareness lessons. And I finally would just like to really do a shout out to our secretaries, Janine and Kelly, for their hard work. They are really the grit behind what happens at our school. Our custodians, Juan, Bill, and Peter, for their role in making the school look pretty amazing. Our maintenance workers, Dan Clark, Scott Olson, Remzi, and all the others for their tireless work and just being at West whenever we need them. We're kind of out there and not in the middle of the town, so they were there this morning for a minor little problem, so they're always there when we need them. And finally, a big, huge thank you for our teachers and our staff for all that they do for our students every single day. We are looking forward to our open house, which is coming up for grades K1 and 2 on September 15th. Grades 3 and 4 on September 22nd, and a pretty exciting day for us is always Picture Day, and that is on September 15th. So at this time, I just would like to say thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to be the principal at West School. We continue to do great things, and thanks for the opportunity to be here tonight to share some of those things with you. Thanks.
Thank you for being here.
Next, I'll invite Matt, our principal of South School, to come on up. He's joined here by Zoe tonight, our assistant principal.
Good evening, everyone. Matt Kaskak, principal at South School. As I shared in our report for the Friday packet last week, South had a great opening in first week. We welcomed 6 new certified faculty, a kindergarten teacher, a science teacher, a new physical therapist who we share with West, a special education resource teacher, and 2 building substitutes. Additionally, we welcome 9 new non-certified staff to our roster of teaching assistants. This is my 19th year at South, and that's the first time we had that many new teaching assistants. So there's a little learning curve there that Zoe's been doing a great job working and training some of these new teaching assistants, and they have jumped right in. Baptism by fire, I guess you would say. We also were very excited to welcome the 72nd South School kindergarten class, 94 students strong. and 26 new students across grades 1 through 4, with the highest number being at grade 1, which is usually the case, 10 new students in grade 1. That's substantially down from last year when we had 50 new students across grades 1 through 4. Overall, we have started the year with 504 students, 20 less than last year, and 1 section less, for a total of 27 sections. We have 5 sections at grades K, 1, 2, and 4, and our largest class, grade 3, has 7 sections. Only the second time in my 19 years that we've had a class that big. The new start time is working well. I'm very happy to report that buses have been arriving pretty consistently within the 8:30 to 8:40 window. This morning we had a couple that were a couple minutes early, and the kids were great. We have cones set up outside, and they just line up at the cones with their grade level sign. When the bell rings at 8:30, they make their way in. They have been wonderful with the change. I'm proud to say that by Wednesday and Thursday of week 1, we had all 10 buses loaded and on their way within 15 minutes of our new 3:10 p.m. dismissal time, which is the same amount of time it took to load the 10 buses in the past years, which is pretty good considering it was the first week and we had 94 kindergartens. That every adult that's on the bus platform checks their bus tag to make sure they're getting on the right bus during that first week. Little funny anecdote, kindergartens get you all the time. They go and they sit in their bus line in the cafeteria. We start checking them. One little boy took his bus tag off his backpack, put it on another child's backpack. That little boy with 2 bus tags ended up on the wrong bus. He was brought back to school, and when he walked in, we noticed he has 2 bus tags. But we called Mom. She came and picked him up. She understood. So we now make sure we're looking to make sure there's not 2 bus tags on anybody's backpack. Overall, we have, as we said, 504 students. We have a little over a dozen of those taking advantage of our first ever early bird program. We have not had early birds like East and West in the past because we had the earlier starting time. And we have about, on any given day, 12 to 20 students attending the Right at School after school program. On Thursday, September 1st, the weather was beautiful. We held our all-school assembly outside to formally introduce and welcome all of our new staff and all of our new students, including all 94 kindergartners, and to begin to build and promote school spirit and the close sense of community that South School is so well known for. We also reviewed our new South School behavior expectations, which is much simpler than our old matrix that had 8 columns and probably 15 to 20 bullet points in each column, which when you're 5 years old, that makes no sense to you. So we had a committee that worked on creating a new, simpler behavior expectations poster, and that's aligned with the 4 core tools of the ruler program, as Jan mentioned, the classroom charters, the mood meter, meta moment, and blueprint. And it also has a big focus on being our best selves by choosing safe, respectful, and responsible words and actions when interacting with our peers and adults. We had our first fire evacuation drill on Friday, and we were really impressed with how well all of our staff and students did, especially the kindergartners. Classroom teachers have reviewed playground safety and equipment use and rules on the 2 different playgrounds. It's always fun to watch the kindergarten teachers showing them how to come down the slide the right way. In addition to our incredible faculty and staff, including Mrs. Robinson, I want to thank our PTC, who is always there to support us. Over the summer, we had some new Edu Markings added, which are, for us, they're new. They're decals that are applied with heat to the pavement. Some are things as simple as hopscotch. We have long jump on the lower playground. We installed some on the lower playground and some on the kindergarten playground. There's sort of an obstacle course for them to follow, and the kids are really excited. They're very bright colored. We have some things that are painted on the pavement, but of course that fades. We have a map there that's probably about 12 years old that probably needs repainting now because it looks very old and faded compared to these new Edu Markings. They ordered large play blocks for the kindergarten playground, and they supported the purchase of a memorial bench for our former student Teddy Balkind, which we will be dedicating in the near future. I want to thank our custodial staff. More than half of our building was used for 6 weeks during the summer, and they did an incredible job to make sure that we were ready and well prepared to open on the first day of school. I don't think I've ever seen the floors shine as well as they are right now. So, but it was 6 weeks of working in one part of the building, and then as soon as the camps were all out, they just flew into that other wing and went to work. So I want to thank them along with the maintenance crew. Of course, I want to thank the parents for their cooperation and patience with the changes to the start time, and to our South School scholars for their excitement, their cooperation, and of course, their school spirit. It's been a great first 7 days, and as we like to say at South School, we're looking forward to a pawsome full year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to welcome Maura Ferwin up to talk to us, share with us a feedback about the East School opening. Now, we bent the rules a little bit for Maura because we allowed her to bring a couple of slides. She wanted to show some pictures of East School, given the amount of work that we did over the summer.
Thanks, Dr. Lutzy. I'm happy to be here tonight to share on behalf of Dr. Woloch. She wasn't able to make it here this evening, and celebrate really the wonderful opening that East School has had. So East School has had a wonderful back to school week, and we're very excited to share for the school year ahead. So the excitement began before the first day of school as we hosted 29 first through fourth grade students and their families to East for Getting to Know You event, along with our K-Play event on the kindergarten playground for our entering K students and their families to connect with and play with one another. We also held a very well-attended welcome back social on Sunday, August 28th, complete with an appearance by our mascot, East Eagle. These outdoor events have been traditions at East, which have been coordinated by our amazing East Ptc, and the turnout of students and families was invigorating for all. Following our outdoor meet and greets for students to meet their teachers and professional learning days for staff, we welcomed 548 students on our first day of school, August 29th. This included 107 kindergarten students who were able to meet their kindergarten teacher with their parents in 1-hour sessions in the classrooms to scaffold the transition to kindergarten on that first day. This year, East has 29 classroom sections across grade levels, kindergarten through fourth grade, which is making our school busier than ever. We're excited to share that we have many new staff members, including 5 new classroom teachers, a new general music teacher, a new reading specialist, a new psychologist, new special education teacher, a new building substitute, and many new teaching assistants. These new staff members are thrilled to be with us, and they bring new ideas and lots of enthusiasm to our building. Currently, classes are crafting their classroom charters as part of our ongoing implementation of EI tools to capture how students want to feel each day in school and the actions they will take to make that happen in their home classroom environments. To support that charter work happening, we've brought new life to our eSchool motto of work hard and be kind. This year, we've enhanced our behavior expectations matrix as we added the acronym SOAR to our motto of work hard, be kind. This acronym represents the ways in which our students can be safe, stay on task, be appropriate and respectful. For each of those letters of SOAR, we've defined for our students what it looks and sounds like in each setting of our building. As staff across the building teaches and reinforces this enhanced expectations matrix, it supports students in understanding what it looks and sounds like to work hard, be kind, and soar. On the facilities front, eSchool was offline for the summer, but there was certainly lots happening inside as we worked through a flooring and painting renovation in our classrooms. And there was work happening outside as well on our outdoor learning center construction also got underway. We have some photos to share this evening to best capture this. I'll shift over here. Sorry. All right, so as you can see here, our school was completely offline as we worked on the renovations. Crews installed new flooring in Cove Base, as well as fresh painting in all of our classrooms. So to make this happen, at the end of the year, the teachers had to work diligently to pack up all of their materials, all of the furniture, which were all in a very coordinated move to our gym. As you can see here, was packed, the full gym packed with every bit of classroom furniture and teacher materials. And that's where it was stored over the summer. So as the flooring crews and painters finished their work in late August, the movers came back in, along with parent volunteers, in a very coordinated effort to deliver that furniture and boxes back to teachers' classrooms, and the parents came in to help the teachers set up their spaces for the new year. On August 29th, here we are. You can see the classrooms. Everything was set back in place. After collaboration, patience, hard work, and dedication, these classrooms were ready to welcome our students, and the spaces did look amazing. Once the children arrived, you can see that they hopped right back in. You can see that we have our carpets back, we have tables back, we have kids back in groups, and everything was just simply perfect. In addition to the classroom, here is our pictures of the different stages of our outdoor learning center. You can see the old was pulled out, the bushes and the pathway, all completely revamped. So thanks to our PTC, their fundraising efforts, their planning, their coordination, their vision, it has transformed our courtyard into an outdoor learning center that we're very excited to use this year. So as you can see, this is the completed version to this point, phase 1. We've installed a beautiful walking path which meanders through the outdoor learning center, and it has 2 classroom spaces. One you can see there in the forefront, and it has a reading nook and a science area that has water tables and wall planters. And we are excited to use this space across the year as we work collaboratively with our staff members to determine times to share that space. And we are looking forward to phase 2, which will bring in the addition of a stage, a sensory area, and a traversing wall. So looking ahead to the month of September, we'll host open houses over the next few weeks. These will give us the opportunity to share with families about our programs and curriculum at each grade level. We have upcoming PTC events this fall, including the return of a beloved e-school tradition, the e-school fall fair. Kids are already talking about it. They cannot wait. And finally, thank you to all who have made this start of the school year possible, our amazing e-school teachers and staff, including the TAs and interns, the secretaries in our office, Michelle Vallely and Kim Aponte, our custodians who worked tirelessly throughout the summer. And we really thank Dan Clark and Scott Olson, who supported our flooring and painting work, which is a massive effort, and really pulled it off. Beautiful, shining learning spaces for our students and teachers this year. Thank you to our PTC for keeping our staff appreciated with the wonderful back-to-school grab and go lunch. And thank you to Dr. Lutzy and the cabinet for their guidance, and to the BOE for your support. It's going to be a great year ahead. We're excited for 22-23.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to welcome Dave Gustich, our principal over at Sachs Middle School. And
good evening, and greetings to members of the Board of Education, to Central Office leadership, those in attendance, and those tuning in or watching later. It is an honor and a pleasure to stand before you to speak on behalf of Sachs Middle School. Thanks to all who had our building ready, physically and logistically, to start the new school year. So much happens every summer, and everything looked amazing, was absolutely ready to welcome back over 1,300 students and almost 200 staff members, with more than 20 of those being new certified and non-certified staff members. Those thanks go out to our custodial and maintenance team, our secretaries, the tech team, our wonderful food service crew, our administrative team, and of course our teachers, faculty, and staff. With the help of our ever-supportive PTC, we're able to welcome everybody back in spirited style. The welcome back events that took place, the school spirit, branding and bannering, the amazing spirit wear that was available. They're also instrumental in our ongoing evolution through grants, our upcoming Celebrate Sachs campaign, the transformational outdoor learning space projects, and probably about 100 other capacities that we'll share throughout the year. Reflecting on the past couple of years, as you've heard before, the launch of the 22-23 school year was one of the best in recent memory. I could not be more proud of our staff and our students, and dare I say our parents, because those who have recommended their children to walk, bike, or take the bus has been amazing. The drop-off lines have been on time, and our students are coming in ready to go. So thank you to everybody who has taken heed on that. It is certainly appreciated. In terms of our physical plant, the projects around the building, we're continuing to transform our innovation space in the library area, our welcoming walkway out front, the outdoor learning spaces, with, again, thanks to our PTC. We can't wait to showcase some of the photos like you see up here that have taken place at East, and we're just dreaming of the time in the near future that ours is going to be ready to welcome our students out and our staff out to utilize those spaces. And even a completed Eagle Scout project with functional custom seating to support our outdoor learning opportunities. The ongoing paint plans, there's a lot of square footage at Saxon Middle School, so it's been years in the making, but it is slowly but surely transforming and pulling everything together. Some much needed floor replacement in several areas and updating of some outdated signage. As you've heard earlier as well, the special thanks that do go out to Dan Clark and Scott Olson and our building manager, Jimmy O'Hara, and the teams, and of course, up to July, Dr. Keating and all of her support, and Sean since then, and the rest of central office staff with all the work that goes on. I would have to say that had I not been through this a few years now in the making, seeing what goes on up to the end, I'd probably be a little bit grayer, but I knew that all the pieces would come together, seeing Kubotas and John Deere's and everything out in front of the building up until the weekend before we opened. I knew it was all going to be pulled together, and without a doubt, it certainly was, and it's a great way to welcome everybody. Over the past couple of weeks, it's been nice visiting classrooms across all grade levels and disciplines, and seeing the foundations of positive relationships in action, interactive and kinesthetic teaching approaches, collaborative group work, and I've even heard of some early, meaningful homework assignments that have been assigned. As much as we have adapted, pivoted, modified, or adjusted the past few years, there are many aspects that we maintain a sharp focus on. In addition to upholding the highest level of academic excellence, we've kept our focus on educating the whole child in a well-rounded experience, balancing each of the learning domains. As you're aware, this is critical during the ever-changing developmental phase, where we like to affectionately say our middle school kids are under construction, true story, and we take great pride in being on this work site. Following up on our focus on caring last year, and for good reason, community the year before, our focus for this year is on connecting. We want our students to feel connected to one another, feel connected to their teachers, feel connected to our building, feel connected to our entire school community. And that is something that we have put an emphasis on, and having that focus throughout the year helps us maintain and tie everything together for the students to see how everything is connected. And this all starts with relationships, and that's been part of our approach to start the year for new and existing families alike. We've had our Meet the Teacher events, we've had our meet and greets, we've had our new student orientations, we've had our New to New Canaan events, and we look forward to our upcoming Welcome Back Coffee on the 13th and our open houses in the coming weeks. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the volunteerism that takes place, our student ambassadors who help with our New to New Canaan, our students who come in and help out over the summer voluntarily on their time. I think we had a ratio of 3 to 1 on one of our orientations, where the kids who came in to help out and showcase proudly our school and all it has to offer with our new students. We averaged probably about 15 to 20 new students per grade level. So it was great to see that support. It was great to show our new families who were coming in and being able to point to our ambassadors before they left with the children to walk around the building and talk about our school. Going through a few things that have evolved, taking a look at our shift in healthy school start times, the adjustments to our new schedules. They have gone extremely well. For example, our reduced congestion in the hallways as our upper and lower divisions are changing classes at different times now. And as I mentioned with the drop-off and pickup at the end of the day, that's gone smoothly as well. So thank you to everybody there. our executive function and tech boot camps that help with our planning, our organizing, and our processing. This includes our custom planners printed on our in-house print shop, and embedded lessons that help strengthen the muscle memory for some of the soft and hard skills that we are building upon, including our continued emotional intelligence work, focusing on resiliency, problem solving, and at appropriate times, being comfortable, being uncomfortable, figuring things out. We continue to take a look at opportunities to build and foster community while connecting in formats such as our grade level and town hall meetings. We held our grade level meetings last week to ensure consistent messaging and reinforce our commitment to every single member of our learning community and how it all ties together with our ongoing work. Another important part of this as we go throughout the school year will be student voice and choice and listening to what our students are experiencing and how we can continue to support what they are hoping to get out of their experience at Sachs Middle School. Overall, in addition to everything mentioned, our focus is to continue to develop kind, well-rounded young people. Everything above happens in one way, shape, form, every day, and we enjoy celebrating snapshots from our learning community through our Sachs Weekly, through the social media, through our Sachs News shows, and even our daily slideshow on our digital displays and on our website. In closing, I would like to thank the Board of Education. I'd like to thank Dr. Lutzy and the central office team and our school community for your continued support. Our unity in leading with what is most important, and that's having our students at the front and center, is what makes New Canaan special. Your Sachs Middle School team looks forward to working together to make 2022-23 the best year yet. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you.
And last but certainly never least, my friend Larry Sullivan, assistant principal here at the high school. Give us a quick update on how the opening's gone here. Thanks, Larry.
Thank you. I know you were expecting somebody taller. Unfortunately, Bill could not be with us tonight. He had a prior commitment. He and his wife were hosting his daughter's volleyball team, I believe, of 50 teenage girls, and I'm sure he would much rather be here right now. I do have to say, Brian, after the introduction of the dome, I am a little worried as the English teacher on the administrative team that I may be the crash test dummy who has to see if an English teacher can really operate it. So thank you. I'm here to tell you that New Canaan High School had a great opening. We are thrilled to be back. It's been great to be back and watch kids walk in fully faced and see their smiles as they've come back. We started off through convocation and professional learning, really focusing with the teachers on reigniting the spark of what got them into education, what invested them, and the challenges of the last few years, unfortunately, have sometimes gotten in the way of that. But really, we really spent some moving and inspiring time together as a faculty to talk about those things and really keep those at the forefront of what we do this year. We have been thrilled to have 6 new certified staff members who bring really varied experience, from people with 20 plus years in the classroom to brand new teachers, and they are already here and enhancing an already excellent faculty. As with the other buildings, none of the opening is possible without our support staff here. David Reyes and his custodial staff did a great job. They did not have the same challenges they had the prior year, where we were re-roofed and re-floored simultaneously, but they did their usual excellent job of getting us ready to look spectacular. And of course, as always, our administrative assistants, particularly Mary Cognetta, Bill's assistant in the main office, got things off to a great start for us. So on Monday the 29th, we welcomed almost 1,300 students, a slight increase with the energy they bring. As any of you who have had seniors or seen seniors know, that's a really special day for them. They arrive early, they park. Thankfully, their part of the lot does have lines, and they actually parked where they should. But they come in with their varied T-shirts throughout the week, and they really just bring such an energy back to the building that is lacking over the summer. It's great to see them back. We welcomed 50 brand-new students and families to the high school. Of course, we invited them in following convocation, where they met with our student advocates and are adjusting nicely to their new school. This year we started something really as a pilot that we hope to grow and expand. One of the things that we have really wanted to do is do a little bit more with our 9th graders and mentoring them with older students, and particularly from day one on orientation and then taking that through the year. So this year we have paired up groups of about 15 9th graders, each with a senior who has volunteered to be a mentor, and they did some training over the summer with Nancy Stevens, who runs our ACES program, and they helped lead the students through the building following convocation so they could get familiar with the building before they arrived on the first day. They met with the students during orientation on the 29th, and the plan going forward is that these seniors, 25 seniors, will meet with this group of their 15 students throughout the year during our connection sessions. So that's really something we're proud of, and it's exciting to see how well our seniors are really taking that role, and we really want to grow that program as we go forward. In terms of new spaces around the building, our library has really been redesigned to create more opportunity for innovation, collaboration, and student production. We've changed around the structure a little bit so that teachers now can bring classes down and conduct classes there more. Our outside spaces continue to be great. Right behind the back of the building, if you've not been there recently, there's Bill's favorite new mural, the home of the Rams. Second only to the picture of his child, the home of the Rams mural. And we have, of course, through the generosity of the PFA, that mural, but also a lot of new outside spaces, which kids are using during lunchtime to eat, but also can be classroom space at any other time during the day. The administration met in class meetings with each of the grade levels on Thursday of last week to welcome them back, to set a positive tone for the year. Our focus is really on a culture of kindness, that more than anything else, we know we have wonderful kids. We know we have high-achieving kids. We know we have kids who are great at so many things, whether it's in the classroom, the athletic field, the performing in the arts. We also want to reinforce the importance of kindness to each other, and seeing the way that our mentors are taking on that role and working in that, it has been great. It's also great to be able to talk with kids about Spirit Week, and that coming up in about a month. In the homecoming activities that, of course, we've had to limit much more over the last couple of years. We're excited to have our first in-person open house tomorrow night, in fact. So looking forward to welcoming so many parents back into the building. We'll continue to celebrate New Canaan High School through our weekly updates, social media, and daily announcements. We thank all of you for your support as we start a great 22-23 school year. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if I could, as you can hear, some themes I think shine through for all 5 of our buildings, our principals, and all of our administrators here. And certainly it's the passion they have for the work that we do, the excitement about the opening of the new school year, and the team effort that it takes at every building to get them ready, get the building ready, get our staff ready, prepare for the openings that we've had. And every team needs a leader, and we have some of the best that there are right here in front of us, right here in New Canaan, doing this work for our children, our staff, and in our buildings each and every day. We're so very lucky. I just want to quickly say, perfect example, we had a whole systems change going to a change in school start times. I mean, this was not just moving a bus, but it was reinventing the schedules within the buildings. It was training. It was so much planning and preparation that went into making this a smooth opening. By all accounts, it's been successful across all 5 of our schools, and the feedback I'm getting from parents and students has also been positive. None of that could happen. If Roy Walder is our admiral in this, the administrators in the buildings are our generals, and we're so lucky to have them doing this and everything else that it takes to start off successfully. And I agree with all of their sentiments. That's been a wonderful start to the school year, and we're looking forward to a great year ahead. So thank you all.
And I would just, on behalf of the board, echo our thanks as well. It's amazing to see and what unfolds over the summer and what starts at the the end of one school year and begins at the next, and just the excitement and the energy. And I started at convocation, and I know it's just carrying into this school year, and it's been really fun to see pictures of the kids in all the newsletters, and we're just thrilled and grateful to all of you for all of your hard work, as well as all of the teachers and staff in the district. Any other questions, comments from the board? All right, thank you for being here with us tonight.
And now I will say you're dismissed. We need you back bright and early in the morning, although not as early as last year, still bright and early for our kids and families. Thank you.
Thank you. So in a moment, we're going to move on to our action items.
Okay. In the meantime.
Just a quick 1-minute break. Okay, back online. Okay, so now we move on to action items, and the first two important action items for this evening. The first is our district goals, and continuing our conversation with moving to approve them at the end of our discussion. So I just wanted to make a few comments before we begin the business of approving our goals. I want to thank the members of the community, parents, students, and alumni who have come forward to share feedback, perspectives, and your personal stories. We have received over 100 emails since our last meeting, and we've read each one of them with interest. And here is the undeniable truth. We are a community that cares deeply about our kids and our schools. And I know that every one of us wants the best education for each child in a learning environment where every individual feels safe, welcome, respected, and included. The desire and belief in this common purpose and collective experience for all of our children is a shared goal among board members, school administrators, teachers, parents, families, students, and our community. So let's take a step back and recognize the power of this common purpose. Let's not take for granted that this is what has set New Canaan apart for so many years. It's our core strength, the foundation for excellence in our schools, the envy of other communities. This is who we are, New Canaan, and education is what we do best. We take a human and people-centered approach through a lens into our classrooms where magic happens every day, where teacher-led collaboration and relationship building are foundational to accelerating student learning and achievement, and in our buildings, where counselors, nurses, behavioral, mental health specialists, and staff are part of this nurturing community that educates and supports the whole child. Our board recognizes and values this expertise, commitment, and the professionalism of faculty and staff throughout our district who do this work every day. The strength of our school system comes from within, our school leaders and every faculty and staff member who come to work every day with a commitment to make a difference in the lives of every individual student, and in turn, we also want them to feel safe, valued, and respected. We also appreciate the high priority and expectations this community places on academic achievement and excellence. This is our priority too. And so is the well-being of our children, because we all know that they are more than test scores, grades, and achievement, and that they're still learning and adjusting to what we all perceive to be back to normal. We know that students who feel safe, included, and respected are happier to come to school, more willing to engage and participate, and they are more passionate, well-behaved, and well-rounded students. So when our classrooms foster openness, curiosity, and a learning-driven, purposeful environment, students grow academically and socially. And I know we all agree on this. So it asks that as a community, we have the courage led by us, the Board of Education, to go forward on this together for the sake of our children. Let's celebrate the commonality in our community while also embracing all the diversity and the differences of opinion that make our town a hub for stimulating knowledge exchange, innovation, progress, caring for others, for one another, and supporting those in need. And remind everyone that our mission is singularly focused on our student learning and experience, year over year, class after class. So as we continue our work this year, we welcome our community to continue to engage in these conversations as we help lead our district forward and maintain a focus on community building. Let's also learn from our kids, and we can begin by showing our students the power of lifting each other up rather than tearing one another down. As a newer BOE with a new set of goals and much work and learning ahead, I encourage us to continue Board of Education meetings in this safe space where we check our political agendas and affiliations at the door, and in here we do the good work of our schools where we help our kids succeed. So this board has a long history of bipartisanship, and together I know we will continue this tradition. So now as we turn our focus to approving our goals, I think I want to open it up to conversation and discussion, but I think I would like to propose one additional edit, and I'd like to read where we left things off, just so the public's aware, with our goals last meeting, and suggest one edit that sort of accounts for where I think we are as a community, as a board, and how we move forward. So to read the goal, specifically goal 3, and we can open up if there's any other discussion on other goals, but we had left that goal 3 as continuously strengthen all schools and classroom communities to ensure every student feels safe, connected, and engaged in inclusive, respectful, and supportive learning environments. And then we added A in that meeting, which says, NCPS will deepen students' understanding of a range of differences among people by fostering empathy and respect for all, and by celebrating the unique and varied contributions each of us makes to the community and beyond. And then we had in this regard, and I think in light of the conversations we've been having with community members and the emails we've been receiving, we could consider adding, in this regard, NCPS will initiate a process including the Board of Education and other stakeholders, and informed by research to develop a district-wide statement supporting this goal with short and long-term action items. So thank you for hearing me out on that. At this point, we can take a step back, and I welcome comments, thoughts, perspective, and specifically, anything related to this goal. Erica.
Yes. So if it's okay, I'd like to kick this off. I wanted to echo, Katrina, what you just said, and thank all of the speakers who came tonight and who came to our previous meetings, and all the people who've written emails to the Board of Ed. And I particularly appreciate the people who've made themselves vulnerable and have shared personal stories about their experiences as members of our school community. I'm going to take advice from a constituent who wrote to us recently and do a better job of sharing with everyone my perspective on the DEI goal. And I wanted to start with what DEI means to me in the context of a school district. To me, diversity is valuing and celebrating students for all of their differences. Equity is giving students differentiated tools and support to reach their own greatest potential. And inclusion is making sure every student feels valued, accepted, a part of the community, and that their voice matters. With these definitions, I support using the words DEI in the goals, and I have confidence that we, as a board, would carve a path forward that was authentic, meaningful, and right for New Canaan. And I'm also listening, and I've been listening to all of the other members of this board, and I value all of your perspectives, and I've heard concerns. I've heard from the community, I've heard concerns from you with the term DEI because of how it's been framed and implemented in other contexts. And what I've heard is this is in other places, but not here in New Canaan. And so I would highlight that and say that New Canaan has always found our own way to do things, and that I still have confidence in our ability to find the right path forward. But in the interest of moving forward with the district's work, I have been, and I continue to be open to using different words to achieve the intent of that language, which I do think we are able to accomplish together. I wanted to add that I am confident that we all have the same goal, that we want each of our students to reach their full potential, and that I think that it's critical, that this work is critical to achieving our academic goals and not competing with it. A student who doesn't feel accepted or included is not in a mindset to achieve their academic best or to contribute fully to our school community, and I think that's a loss. And so I do think that this work helps us get to our academic goals. I also think that there's hopeful news that has maybe been lost a little bit in the shuffle. I think the last meeting, the board did have a lot of agreement around the statement. And I think that the sub-goals that have been underneath this work have been here from the start and continue to be here. And I think that these sub-goals are ready for us to move forward with. And I wanted to highlight them. These were in 2 years ago goals, they were in last year goals, and they're still here in these goals. And they are to conduct professional development for our teachers and staff on cultural awareness, to provide students with culturally responsive learning experiences, to hold parent education meetings on this topic, and to learn more about the Open Choice program. And I just wanted to highlight that I do think there's agreement, more agreement than people realize, and that we're ready to move forward with full board support. The final thing I wanted to say, and I know I'm sort of giving it a lot all at once, but the final thing I wanted to say is that I really do, and I don't think that anybody disagrees with me, but I want to send a clear message to our teachers and administrators that we support and value the work that they already do every day in the classroom to create a welcoming learning environment, and that I see their partnership as critical as we figure this out and as we work together as a district to continue to grow and learn, which we always want to do. So, and then Katrina, regarding that specific question of adding that language, I'm comfortable and supportive of that language.
Great. Thank you, Erica. Other comments, questions? Support for suggested changes? Penny?
So I just also want to say I appreciate all the outpouring of interest from the community and the support, where I'm echoing a little bit what was said, but the common theme is that people in this community want the best education possible for their students. Now, we are, and we've always been, a student-centered school district. And I think our true north has been to deliver a K-12 education that gives our students the skills and knowledge they need to thrive and succeed. We want these inclusive classrooms. We want to diminish bullying. We know it happens, but we want as little of it as possible. You heard how much we're trying to develop kindness and actually understanding in the classrooms. And having that type of classroom increases learning. And I think it's one reason, because we've been working along these paths for the last decade and more. One of the reasons that New Canaan's academic performance is at the top of the DERG and at the top of the state in the school is because we've done a lot of work. And that doesn't mean we don't have more work to do. I'm supportive of the language Katrina suggested, because I think that we need to take more, need to map out and have specific steps and action that we're going to do to bring this sort of new layer of education, new approach really to what we've been doing all along, into fruition and fold it into the curriculum smoothly. So I think we need to have a committee. I think we need to add long-term and short-term goals and work through it with the talented administration and teachers, and have a group of stakeholders that looks at it. So I'd like to see that kicked off soon. I also would like to add the word, I don't think it's bad, I think it's important. I think I'd like to add, in what Katrina said, I'd like to add the word equitable. So I would say that, that we want our students to feel safe, connected, and engaged in inclusive, respectful, equitable, and supported learning environments. And in saying that, I think equitable goes to sort of the differentiated classroom that Erica mentioned, and I think it's not same outcomes. It's giving every child the opportunity to be the best that they can be, their best selves, and that's what we're about. And so I think that if we use that and make sure that that's something that we want as a Board of Ed, that we will be making progress.
Thanks, Penny. Dan, you had your hand up earlier. You want? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so I similarly appreciate everybody's comments that have been sent to us and expressed tonight. Hugely helpful to hear from the community, regardless of the issue or the side. And I don't actually, on this one, think there are sides. I think everybody's looking for the same thing, which is to get our kids in the best way we possibly can through the New Canaan Public Schools, and launch them into the world as great adults, give them the opportunities to be the best they can be. So in terms of the language, I'm supportive of the language. I'd be supportive of the addition that Penny suggested. To me, among the most important things, and one of the things I like about the addition of the words at the end of 3A, is that we actually set up a process to do something. We know that this is a deficiency, as we've talked about, and it's important that we come together both as a board and with members of the community and stakeholders, which could include administration, faculty, staff, and find a path forward to optimize this area of learning for our kids. So I'd be supportive of it, and hopefully we can move it forward tonight.
Other comments?
Okay.
Julie?
I have a ton of messy notes here from a bunch of comments earlier. I like what you are suggesting, Katrina. I'm in complete support of that. Just some thoughts from what the principals were saying earlier. There was a common theme, Dr. Lutzy, and it was a great theme. West, I heard Jan mention kids feel emotionally safe. In South, I heard behavior, they're focusing on behavior expectations, safe, respectful, responsible. And East, I tell my kids this every day before I drop them off, work hard, be kind. And the SOAR, I think that's awesome, safe, on task, appropriate, respectful. SACS, I noticed the word kind, resilience, which I love. Educating the whole child, which is so important. and connecting with people, the teachers, the building, the school community, other students. And at the high school, the mentor program is great, and I heard the word kindness. There is a common theme here. And I'm proud of that. I'm really proud of that as a district. Somebody just mentioned bullying. I think we need to take bullying very seriously and have a zero tolerance policy for bullying. There should never be a child crying in the high school gym because of something another student said. Never. Cyberbullying is way up. And I think parents in our community can do a better job setting that example for our children. And that starts with us. It starts with us as parents. Post-COVID, there is increased anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, suicides. I think we need to step up investments in our mental health. There's so much here, and words do matter. And Penny, the words that you just said, I love. The opportunity to give every student correct me, I was jotting it down. Something about giving every student the opportunity to be their best self. I love that, and we should absolutely do that. And I would be in favor of adding that to the goals. Those words, I think, are fantastic. That might be all I have right now. I'm sure I'll have more later.
Okay. Thank you. Dan?
So I agree with almost everything that's been set up here, and I think your intro statement trying to set the deck and bring it back to the mission, I think was excellent, and I would just echo that sentiment. What I would say is, so first on your proposed language around initiating a process, I'm supportive of that. I think it's good. I agree with what you said, and I think, Brendan, you said it. I think part of the comments that we had was, I think, a concern that the board was abandoning this work or not, moving forward. So I think this hopefully provides some clarity that there's real work, and I believe it was already in the goals for a reason, because it was going to be something that we as the district and the staff and administrators spent time on. But I think this hopefully makes clear to people that, like, we're going to work on a statement, we're going to do work, and we're going to come up with some action items. So I am supportive of that. A couple things that I think we've heard, and I think Julie put out some positive language, but I would just say for 3, I would suggest, and if people don't want to add, it's fine, but maybe where we have communities to ensure every student, I would say, feels they belong and are safe, connected, engaged, and welcomed would be 2 additions. So I think welcomed and belonging are words that I think people have used in a lot of the email correspondence and a lot of discussions. So I would suggest those 2. One thing I'd like to highlight, though, because I do think things get very spun up, and I actually think the board has, spent a lot of time on this and, put new language on the table that I think is indicative of what the work we as a district want to do. And I do think that this language creates a lot of room for the administration, teachers, staff, community, as well as this board to do that work. And so, I know there's other terms and things that I think there's been more pushback against, but I think the actual words on the page really do create an environment for us as part of the 22-23 goals, both as the board as well as, the entire administration, teacher, staff, to do that work. And so I think there's a lot that we can tackle and accomplish over the year as drafted.
Okay. Thank you. Hugo?
Yeah, nothing to add other than I think you guys articulated everything really well. I do appreciate the public coming forward, being vulnerable. I know how hard that is. I just want everyone to know that we really do care. We do listen. We hear you. We see you. We've read every single one of the emails we've gotten. Some of them are certainly more colorful than others. but all have been read and taken into consideration nonetheless. I myself have spent countless hours over the last couple of weeks. My wife hasn't slept, I haven't slept. We just want to make sure we're making the best decisions for our community. And a lot of the reasons for some of the changes were not to abandon anything, any of the intent or any of the spirit of the goal, was merely that we've heard from some of the groups in the community that a lot of the folks are trying to help and protect differently. And you heard some of that tonight. So we wanted to create more of a bridge and an opportunity for more people to feel inclusive, not excluded. That was not our goal. It certainly wasn't my goal. And I just want to assure everybody that we're going to continue to do the best work, because we all have the exact same intention. We all want the exact same outcome for New Canaan and for our schools. We may disagree on how to execute it, but that's okay. And I think that's what makes our town great, and what makes our town powerful, and what makes our schools so great. And you know, my wife and I moved here, and our friends joked 13 years ago that we were going to be the only people with brown hair, brown eyes, and dark skin in town. We've met a couple since, but not for 1 second have we ever felt excluded. Not for 1 second. And I would encourage folks, you know, we've gotten phone calls and emails from like independently to meet for coffee, and those are great opportunities to meet with us. And I'm always there, share with you my background, my culture. I'll learn more about yours. If you've known me for any time within the first 2 or 3 times of us hanging out, I'm always going to want to find out where you're from, what you like, what kind of wine you like, what you eat, what languages you speak. I'll invite you to come make tomato sauce with us next year in September. Make sausage in January. But we embrace all the things that everybody here has mentioned tonight, and just want to assure you guys that this is not lost on us, and the work isn't done. So that's all. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Hugo. Go ahead, Phil.
My turn?
Yep, your turn.
First, just echoing on what these guys are saying, thanks to everyone who's emailed the board the last couple of weeks, people I've met with, people I've spoken to. There's been some incredibly thoughtful emails, some highly emotional ones, a few that strayed pretty far off the reservation, but those are okay too. I myself, a couple years ago, sent a very emotional email to Katrina at the height of the COVID madness. It's not something I'm proud of. It certainly wasn't my finest moment, but my heart was in the right place, and I think more often than not that's the case for most of the people here, so I think we can all kind of bond about that. I think we all up here have this sort of shared goal of making sure that every member of the community, especially our children, are treated fairly and made to feel welcome at our schools, and this is obviously something I'm wholeheartedly in support of, and I think that Dan and Katrina's edits to the goal help kind of bridge us there, and I'm completely supportive of those.
All right. Thank you. So go ahead, Penny.
And I just want to say that when we're setting out like where we're going with this goal and our future steps, I think we also need to look as a committee. We've gotten a lot of statements from people in the public that our students need to be ready to come out of the New Canaan, bubble or whatever you call it. It's a wonderful New Canaan community. It's a small community, and they need to be ready to face everything they're going to face in the global diverse world. And so I think as we go through and set, our next steps in this, it's part of my intent that, we will be looking at that too and figuring that we want New Canaan, we want our students to go out and soar. We want everybody graduating to have a plan and have the ability to execute on that plan. So I just want to make that clear to the community that that's out there, and we heard you and we appreciate all your comments. And I really, this is an amazing community, and sometimes it's hard, but it's really good that we all value our children so highly.
Thank you, Penny. And I would add that there is other language and other elsewhere in the goals where we will be doing that work and talking about portrait of a graduate. So I think that's work that we look forward to as a board in partnership with the administration and the community.
Just so I know where I am, could you read the language?
Yeah, so I'm about to do that because I think I've captured all the suggestions. So I'll read all of them together, noting what's new, and we'll go from there. So goal 3, the third sub-goal, continuously strengthen all schools and classroom communities to ensure every student feels they belong, is new, and are safe, connected. We added welcomed, and engaged in inclusive, respectful, equitable was added, and supportive learning environments. And then the addition of the sentence, the last sentence of A, which we'll read, I'll just read it one more time so you all have it. In this regard, NCPS will initiate a process including the Board of Education and other stakeholders and informed by research to develop a district-wide statement supporting this goal with short and long-term action items. How are we doing?
Good, yeah.
Okay.
Just want to make sure the English is right, so if you could have
Yeah.
an English teacher maybe
Yes.
review it before we.
Yes, you can,
I wasn't
any
sure
edits?
that we got the tense of everything right.
Yeah, we
but
may
that
not
is-
have.
That is certainly the gist of it.
Yes.
I promise I won't bring them back to revote on tenses. We'll get that straight.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. So unless there are,
Sorry.
Julie.
One other thing came to mind. I'm going back, but something Sachs also mentioned was being comfortable, being uncomfortable. And it made me think of Susan Bliss's presentation a few months ago, I think. And she mentioned that kids these days don't resolve conflict in person. And that really struck a chord with me. And I think that's something as a district we need to look at and teach our kids how to resolve conflict in person in these crazy times of social media. I don't know if we can work that into some kind of goal, but I think it needs to be addressed.
Dan?
I actually jotted that comfortable being uncomfortable thing down. I thought that was a good statement. I don't know that, I think there's a lot here in just this goal. Obviously, there's a lot in all the other goals of work to do. I think there's probably more consensus on the board than I think, what's kind of the narrative out there. And I think the edits today actually, I think, further that. So I think those are all good things, but I think that's probably stuff that we generally agree on, and as we do more work around this, that and many other themes will be there.
That's totally, I agree with you 100%. But we need to address this somehow. And if it doesn't have to be in the goals, but we need to address what Susan mentioned in that presentation.
Yeah, that's feedback that we can follow up on, through other presentations and conversations we have for sure. Erica?
Yeah, I was just going to follow up, and my understanding is that a part of the ruler method that we use, it has 4 parts to it, and it starts with the mood meter, and the last part of it is the blueprint, which is around how do you resolve conflict, and that they were staged in their implementation, and that because of COVID, I think we hadn't fully gotten that rolled out, at least at the elementary level, but I think that is a part of our social and emotional work. It's just a matter of really being able to dig into it more. So that would be my instinct, is that, I totally agree, but I see it as being a part of that social and emotional umbrella.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for your comments. Thank you for bringing your suggestions forward and for thoughtful discussion. And I'll echo, the support of the community helps us do our work as well, and your engagement is appreciated. So with those changes, unless there are others, which I don't believe there are, there was just one other minor edit where we added technology enabled under the instruction assessments. I think we talked about that last time. So with that change, there was a motion on the table to approve as a second reading the revised 2022-2023 district goals and objectives as first moved and seconded by Mr. Hogan and Ms. Rashin separately. So with that, I'll ask for approval. All in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. All right. Well done. Next is the end of year financial report. We have a special guest in the house tonight to help us. Dr. Lutzy?
Yes, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our friend, colleague, Dr. Joanne Keating, who will be uncharacteristically speaking to us from the podium tonight instead of from the table. Dr. Keating has been working throughout the summer along with Sean, Mr. O'Keefe, and the entire finance department to develop our end-of-the-year financial report. As you know, this report is extensive, and what it does as we go through the end of the year, we have our 8 objects, and Dr. Keating will get into the specifics, but ultimately, we have to balance out our accounts. We have to make some decisions, make some transfers, and report to the state by the end of the day on September 1st in the EFS report all of those financials and all of those. So what we have in front of us today is our unedited financials, as we have done annually. Dr. Keating has written up the report for us and is offered to join us at our meeting tonight. Thank you, Dr. Keating, to walk us through and answer any questions and be part of the discussion. Dr. Keating, I have plugged in and I can put up on the screen anything you'd like me to show. The board does have a copy of the financial report. And do you have yours as well?
I do.
Excellent.
Thank
Welcome.
you. All right. Well, good evening. It's nice to see everybody. It's been a couple of months. So we're here tonight to talk about the unaudited year-end financial report. And it is unaudited pending any changes that might take place through the audit. They would be reflected in the financial reports, the comprehensive annual financial reports of the town. So unlike the previous years that the report has been before you, we generally come in at this time of year with a reconciled report on our actual expenditures with the town's books. This year we do not have that. There are 3 transactions that the town has yet to post on their books, and so that will be a subject of the audit. So we can expect those that conversation to take place. We've had a preliminary discussion so far about those 3 transactions with the auditors. And so those really deal with the transfers into the Internal Services Fund. And as you may recall, at the end of the year, or during the budget season rather, we had received a $1.3 million reduction in our budget for 22-23 with regards, and the recommendation was to make it to the ISF fund. And we were under the impression that we would be able to go back to the town for the balance that we needed. And fortunately, as we closed out the books, we were able to cover those transfers within our own operating budget. And I'll explain why in a few minutes. So our original budget was $92,274,000. We expended $91,359,000. That includes the 3 deposits into the Internal Services Fund as outlined. We also had encumbrances at the end of the year of over $500,518. And so the balance going into the year is 0.4% of our budget, which will go back to the town, and that equals $333,253. So without those 3 transfers, it would be about 1.9. We needed 1.5 to balance out the Internal Services Fund. A part of that, as we're going to discuss, is because of a shortfall that occurred in 22, and then the balance has to do with the funding requirement for 23. There's 2 transfers here. Tonight we needed to transfer some money into the equipment account from other areas of the budget to pay for some Chromebooks for the 8th grade. When we collect at the end of the year, we do an assessment on the condition of the units, and this year we found that there were a number of, almost half of that fleet for the 8th grade required to be replaced. We had anticipated about half of that, about 25%, when we did our lease purchasing plan. And so the balance had to come out of operating. The units were 2 years old. They're a flip model. I believe they're designed to meet the math program in the 8th grade. And so we did need to replace them. They're up for renewal next year. So part of the assessment with the purchasing plan for the lease will take that into consideration next year. So that was the total cost of those units was $35,000, roughly 70 units, or approximately $500 a piece. We had some funds within the account to pay for a portion of it, so we had to transfer $27,089 to meet that need. The second transfer is the ISF. So as you'll recall, when we did the reforecast for the current year's budget, 22 budget, we had anticipated transferring in $518,439 to cover 22. When we were reduced by $1.3 million, the recommendation from the Board of Finance was to allocate the portion that was put in the budget for the change in start and end times of $463,337. which we did at the June meeting, and that left a balance of $585,969 to be transferred today. Now, at budget time, the actuarial estimate for claims was about 14.5. When we went through all of our negotiations with Voya for our reinsurance on the aggregate stop-loss insurance, they came in at 14.3. It took some work to get them down. They initially were 200,000 over Joe's projection, and then we were able to work with them and really drill down in the claims, and they came down a little bit lower. So that helped us with the amount of money that we needed to fund. So those are the two transfers that are on this report tonight. The second page, on page 2 of the report, is basically the actuals for 22. And you can see as you go down that we were short $292,841 as opposed to $518,439. So that helped us in terms of what we needed for 23. And then as you go down, you can see I put in the approved budget by the Board of Finance and the Town Council, and then all the updated numbers came to $1,274,904. So it was very close to the $1.3 million that had been projected originally. All of these numbers are keyed into our renewal with Voya. So once we have that renewal, we know what the risk corridor is for the board. And the policy between the town and the board has always been to cover 100% of that risk corridor. So that is the reserve. Each year, the town and the board puts aside their percentage of that. A few years ago, we took 40%. We had been reserving at 60%, and the town took 60% instead of the 40%, so we flipped that around. The difference to meeting that corridor, as long as we don't go into it, is minimal. So it's whatever really your increase in your claims projection or your decrease is times 20%, and that's allocated. So that's a small number. The 1.3 million really came out of projected claims for this year, for 22-23. So that reduction really had nothing to do with the reserve. It has to do with the actual claims projection, which were validated through the Voya renewal. And so that's why we've gone through this process. It's no different than what we've had in previous years. If we could turn to page 5 for a minute. I wanted to go through the operating budget with you just briefly. A lot of this you know already because of the reforecast, but I'd just like to recap it for you. The main reasons why we had money in this current year budget are two primary reasons. One is the salary accounts came in $1 million below, and I'll go over why. And the second is the property or the purchase services account came in approximately $1 million below budget. So when we look at the salary accounts, our staffing model came in 3.7 FTEs below budget for the year. That was one big reason. Substitute teachers came in 178,000 below. We had turnover savings that were significant. I was amazed to hear yet a second year in a row, or third year in a row almost, the number of new staffing. Well, that was experienced last year, and it's hard to even imagine the amount of work that's involved with that, but the impact financially on our budget. A lot of older upper teachers on the higher part of the scale are being replaced by teachers on the lower part of the scale. And as that adds up, the turnover savings adds up. So that's a plus to the district. And it'll be interesting to see how that goes for future years because of the dynamic in the labor market right now. And then we had LOAs for leave of absences for the year where teachers were out and substitutes were brought in. Those substitute teachers were actually part of our ARP and our ESSER program, so we weren't incurring those expenditures. So overall, it was approximately $1 million. With regards to the purchase services, there's two areas. One was the transportation, which was $463,000. The other was tuition out of district. We were over $600,000 below our budgeted number, and Bill Tesber and his team did an amazing job really working with existing students and students that were in the pipeline to educate them here primarily in district, and the good programs that were brought in. Where did we need money? In the ISF. The ISF really needed a good chunk of that money. In addition, we needed money in the property services account for heating and electricity, which was about $323,000. And through the budget reforecast, we did reforecast additional funds of $200 and some odd thousand into equipment, did another transfer in June, and then did the transfer for the Chromebooks. So a lot of times during the reforecasting, if we have an opportunity to purchase equipment in the current year that would be put in the next year's budget, we take those opportunities to take care of those needs. So overall, the town will be receiving back the $333,000. We'll see this through the audit, and we'll update the board. I'm sure Sean will be updating you as he moves forward with the audit. And then just briefly, we can get into, there's exhibits for every single financial in here, but the grant funds, we have 8 new grant funds this year. Actually, 3 of them straddled over from last year, but we have the ESSERs and the ARPs. Those are the COVID-related grants that came to the district. In each case, there's 1 for general expenditures for the regular program fund, and then 3 in each of those categories for special needs students. And those have all been applied for with specific program targets through either Bill or Joe. We generally carry over about $1 million in our grant funds. This year it's about $1.7 million, and it's because these larger grants that came in through the year were implemented gradually through the year. They are multi-year grants, so those funds can be used in this current 22-23. Food service is starting to rebound. The food service fund, interestingly enough, the revenues, if you turn to page 3 of the report, the revenues were within $28,000 of forecast, which is excellent. The salaries were within $27,000. Unfortunately, the product, which is food and all of the supplies, was over budget by $163,000. So the same impact that everybody was experiencing at home, in the at restaurants and so forth, our product was higher by quite a bit, significant. It wasn't only the food, but it was paper. It was every potential item that we purchase. And so in a normal year where pricing would have been much more stable and the profit would have been far more palatable, it was reduced by more than 50%. So that was unfortunate. One of the things the Ed Resources Committee asked me to do is include the amount of money that the operating budget through the ISF contributes to the health insurance for the employees that work in the food service program. That's noted there as well at $397. We also rebounded on our facilities rental. We had a pretty good year. I mean, we were open for outside users to come in and use the facilities, so the basketball leagues, the churches, anybody who wanted to use our facilities with the parameters we put in place did come into the schools, and it did generate good revenue and a nice feel for the schools to have people back in our schools on the off hours. Donations were as good as they've always been, over $500,000, $577,639 to be exact. Really, truly amazing. I mean, districts just don't have this kind of money coming in. And it sounds like you're gonna have a lot more with the Planetarium from what we heard earlier, which is so exciting. So that was good news as well. And the summer program incurred a planned deficit. We had put a program in place, Jill did with her team, to have an academic assistance program during the summer to help kids who had some learning deficit or learning they needed to get back up to speed. And that was a very successful program, and we had funds within our summer program to absorb those costs, so that was the decision that was made there. And then finally on page 4, there's some detail about all of the transactions that occurred with the ISF fund. We've talked about them. I don't really need to repeat everything. And then the financials, which is on the last page for the ISF, really details the actual expenditures. So we can flip there if you'd like. Get to my last page. So I've included here the budget for '22, the reforecast for '22, the actuals for '22, and the differences. And, you know, as you can see going through, given that it's a $16 million line item, you know, the variances are very reasonable. About 200,000, almost 300,000 over the original budget, about 300,000 under the reforecast. So I did look today, July and August of '21, we had spent on a gross basis about $3 million in claims. We're right there about that this year. It's within 100,000. Last year we had a lot of large claimants. This year I'm not sure what makes up the number. If you have more lower claimants that add up to the same number, you're going to want to track that. So Joe Spurgeon can help you with that. I'm going to have a drink of water. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Joanne, first off, for coming back and for just closing out the books. I know this was, as always, it's a Herculean task, and there's a lot of people involved in the process, and I know everybody was working very diligently, to put it mildly, until the last moment. So when the deadlines were in place. So thank you to you and to everyone who's worked as part of our team, and Sean as well, as you get up to speed on New Canaan and all of that. So thank you. Questions, Brendan?
So just one quick one on the school lunch program. If we wanted to in the future, could we include the benefits in this account and track that? I kind of think, particularly with increased costs and everything, it makes sense to include the benefits. Is that something we can do? Are there any issues from an audit or accounting standpoint?
Well, a few years ago, we did have a fund balance that had started to accrue. On an average year, given our sales volume, the sales volume is very high and very good here in New Canaan. Students buy the lunch, and they like the lunch. It's around $250. So it's around 10% of sales, which is a good target number to have. If you were to do that, you'd have to, really take a look at the cost structure and see what the volume is by everything that was sold to see if you would want to raise the prices. They weren't increased since in the 7 years I was here. Unless we had new items come on, we'd point price them based on the cost.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't personally feel the need to increase prices, but we should just make sure, just like we did with facilities rental, whatever it was 5 or 6 years ago, just make sure that what we're taking in reflects our actual costs.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and we've begun a study. Michelle at Sean's request has reached out to surrounding towns to collect those prices.
Great.
A preliminary look looks like we are in line with most of those around us, but we'll take a deeper dive into it and be glad to share that back with the Resources Committee to see.
Great. I just had a second one, which is somewhat rhetorical, but I'll ask it anyway, which is why are we in a spot where, the town hasn't reflected these transfers? Obviously there was a lot of debate in our last budget cycle about, funding needs and, the Board of Finance reduced, can't remember if it's Board of Finance or Town Council. The town reduced our budget by $1 million. Yeah, Board of Finance. And so we're left in this position, which, we've done pretty much every year when we have to make transfers through the year. We do that. We talk about it at the Resources Committee, and then it comes in front of the board, and we make the transfers that we need to make. In this particular year, due to COVID and absences and things like that, we had money to move over to the ISF. It's important from a Board of Ed standpoint to start this new fiscal year fully funded in our internal services fund, so we're not in the position, as we explained to the Board of Finance last year, where we have to mid-year go ask for additional funds. And so the position that we're in right now as a board, we've made the transfers. The town needs to reflect those transfers in its financial statements. Otherwise, we're out of balance, right? Which we really, I don't think we've been as long as I've been on the board. So it's pretty disappointing that we're not fully aligned with the town, particularly with something that's as important as our employees' health care, which everybody knows we have to fund. And everyone, I think, also agrees on the town side that the New Canaan Public Schools can't start this new school year without full funding. So we've reflected that in our books. It's totally transparent as it's all laid out here. The town needs to reflect it in their accounts, which are essentially the town manages funds on behalf of the Board of Education. So we need them to do the same thing and not be in this position where we're sort of battling over full funding for the ISF. And my hope, by the way, this is 100% not a question.
We're still waiting.
My hope is that, as we've talked about, I think for 3 years, maybe it's just 2 years, is that instead of having these special appropriations and pulling things out of the Board of Ed budget, so that we see smaller year-over-year changes, we actually just have a fully funded budget so that it can be compared year to year. It is almost impossible to explain to somebody in less than 2 hours how our budget changed year to year because of the special appropriations that have been done. So anyway, that's a long, rambling speech, but hopefully we can be in a better spot as we embark upon our next budget cycle.
And I will ask a question, Dr. Keating. Just correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe our books have to be closed, as you know. We know by the end of the day, September 1, I think it's 11:59. We have to make sure we certify, do those things. But the town is not operating on the same deadline, so there is still time for these books to be lined up.
To book the entries. Ideally, you want to close the books, report everything to the state, which these numbers are in the EFS that went to the state. So if for some reason we're told to take them out, then that would have to go to the state, and they'll ask us why. And then you get into a large explanation as to why. And I don't know how that would be received, to be honest with you. I'll just say this about one thing. I've been reading a lot of the correspondence just to try to understand where the confusion is. And because this practice has been in place for over 10 years. Actually, we found correspondence going back to 2012, which Mike Lagas, who's been retired for quite a while, did a historical look back of 4 or 5 years explaining this entire process just as we do it now. So, and at that time, the board was holding 100% of the reserve, and right now it's 40%. So there's been some change there. But what I will say is it appears to me, based on the correspondence, is that they're looking at the reserve as an area to pull current year claims prior to that 20%. So they're looking to pull out of the reserve, as I read the correspondence, I could be wrong, to draw down the reserve for the 1.3 million. The problem with that is it doesn't provide you with risk. Your risk mitigation and what the policy calls for. And so that's the conversation, I think, that if there are different thinking on that, have it out in public and then come to an affirmation of the policy.
Thank you for sharing that. And, I would add that this has been a conversation we've been having for years, and I know it's always been our request, and I know I've said it, I'll say it tonight, and I've said it before, is that this is a conversation we're open to having with the town. We close our books and we develop our budget every year within the policy that we have set with the town. And this is according to the policy and the agreement between the town and the Board of Education. So nothing has changed in the way that we work and the way that we do our work. And I will support and back reopening that conversation outside of the budget process, because when we do it within the budget process, which has happened the last 2 years, we get to what Brendan was saying, which is the special appropriation, and it throws off the budget cycle every year, and it's very hard to communicate around it, and it creates a lot of confusion. So that's my comment. Brendan.
Yeah, one follow-up to that, to what you just said, is that there's absolutely zero impact to taxes in New Canaan based on the special appropriation versus going into our budget. Everything, if it's fully funded, it's fully funded. It doesn't matter whether it's a special appropriation or it comes out of the annual budget. It just needs to, for comparison's sake and to make sure that we're fully funded once we agree, whether it's Board of Finance or Town Council, once the Town Council passes whatever our budget is, that should be the full number, and it is what it is. And it, again, it just needs to be one comparable number year to year, rather than moving things around from account to account.
So the importance of that is that, and I agree with you 100%, Brendan, we've had 2 unusual years with having funds remaining in our budget available to do the transfer. You can't count on that moving forward, and that's the danger of it.
Dan, or Penny, and then Dan.
So I just want to say, I think the town needs to fully fund the insurance, as Brendan said, and we've all said on this board during the regular funding process, and I consider ourselves very fortunate that we are able to make these transfers for these sort of one-off reasons this year so that we're in control. And then I also just wanted to have you confirm that even though the town has not yet made these changes, these transfers that we on the Board of Ed have made and are going to make tonight are absolutely allowed and permissible and within our authority, as our auditor has said. So this is something that we've always done. It's regular course of business, and we actually checked this year, and it's been confirmed.
Yeah, we've checked twice with the auditors and with our attorney.
Thank you. Dan.
So I get that we've had some outperformance in, I guess, salaries and purchase. And I hate to ask a hypothetical, but what would we be doing now if we didn't have that and didn't have those excess funds related to either a shortfall in the ISF fund or a not funding it according to policy, or would we be requesting additional funding at this point from a special assessment?
Yep, exactly. We would be, without the transfers, we would be going to the Board of Finance in order to request a special appropriation. And that process can be lengthy because there's the Board of Finance and then there's the Board of Town Council as well. There's a period of time that it has to be posted to the paper, and it can even trigger a referendum if people disagree with it. So it can take anywhere from 2 months or beyond, given the charter and the way that special appropriation process works.
Brendan.
Yeah, just following up on that, I mean, we've already started the school year, right? So we're already in this position where, in your hypothetical, we'd have to go back to the town, to the Board of Finance, Town Council, start that process, and we're already spending money in our budget, right? And so in a normal year, there's a good chance that we'd end up in a deficit position as a Board of Ed, which we can't be in that position.
Yeah, we have to always consider worst case scenarios, right, as we're doing this. And so just a worst case scenario could be that it could trigger a referendum, and if that referendum were to fail, we would have to then cut and transfer $1.3 million to cover this cost. Because again, this is municipal funding, and the charter process and the special appropriation process is all very specifically laid out. So there's certainly risk there that we're able to now mitigate because of the good fortune and the money that we're able to save throughout the course of the year.
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think it's really important to say that under the statutory scheme in Connecticut, it is the town's responsibility to fully fund our budget. To not piecemeal it and say, come back if you need it as you go along. You can go back in an emergency situation such as we had the first year of COVID and ask for additional funds because nobody had anticipated that. But under the statutory scheme set out by the Connecticut legislature, they're supposed to fully fund us, in the spring so that we know we can plan for our expenses for the next year.
You're right, Penny, it's actually called contingent appropriations, and they're prohibited under statute in Connecticut. And, you know, it's contingent if you spend the money, then come back and we'll give you some more based on things. And that's exactly right. And boards of education, as you know, have the authority to expend their budget as they see fit. It's a single appropriation from the town. So the town is expected to fully fund the budget, and then the Board of Education has the responsibility to manage and expend that budget. And that's the balance between the boards at a municipal level as set up by Connecticut statute.
All right, thank you. Yes.
If I could just say one thing.
Yes, please.
You reminded me, Katrina, when you made comments, but Tracy Haberman and her entire team in the business office has done an amazing job this summer, along with Sean, and they've really come through to help get all the reports done this year, including the EFS, with a special thank you to Terry Lizzie. And so I'm very grateful for them, and I'd like to just say thank you to them publicly. And it's been really nice seeing everybody. It's probably going to be a long time before I see you all again, but I wish you all the best of luck and Godspeed.
Thank you. Enjoy that winter in Florida.
A couple more weeks and we're gone.
Yeah. No, yeah. So now I'll ask for a motion to approve the transfers as outlined in the. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
She's on her way.
That was a mic drop, yeah.
Totally.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So I'll ask for a motion to approve the transfers as outlined in fiscal year 2022 end of year financial report. Brendan, second. Hugo, all in favor? Thank you. And that was unanimous, yes. Okay, so now we'll move on to any comments from the public. If you'd like to speak, just raise your hand and I'll call you up. Please go ahead, just state your name at the podium. We'll go here and then there.
Hi, I'm Dietrich Moore, 146 Old Norwalk Road. I appreciated the DI in schools debate this evening, and some of the comments which really resonated with me included one, comparing DEI to the euphemism-laden and family-undermining programs found in totalitarian regimes and to a Trojan horse for Marxism. Two, noting that other states have acted to remove these types of programs from their schools. And three, exhorting us to judge people as individuals by the content of their character first and last. I applaud the democratically elected BOE for having the courage to consider action to eliminate DEI, which I consider to be a solution searching for a problem. In the face of criticism, I hope that you don't ultimately decide to reverse course, since I believe that this action is the just thing to do, and that preserving an excellent system built over generations is also the most practical path forward. My appeal to you is to have the courage to hold faith with your voters, whom I believe are watching closely. In the words of Aristotle, courage is the first virtue, since without it, none of the others are possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Rogers, 237 South Bald Hill Road, New Canaan. I have a son here at the high school. Tonight, I think all of us can agree that what we want most for our kids is for them to be well prepared when they leave home for the road ahead. I think, unfortunately, removing DEI and then watering down the words of it tonight was a big step backwards towards that goal. This board and our town leans right. The real world and the corporate world leans left, and they're leaning more into it. I looked at some of your guys' CVs before I came over tonight. Philip, you worked for Deutsche Bank. This is what Deutsche Bank says about DEI. At Deutsche Bank, we are here to enable economic growth and societal progress through our positive impact. To do this, we build inclusive and diverse teams to drive business results. We believe talent is found in all cultures, countries, races, ethnicities, genders, sexual orientations, disabilities, beliefs, generations, backgrounds, and experiences. We pursue a working environment where everyone can be authentic and feel a sense of belonging. Katrina, you worked at Pfizer and Deloitte. Pfizer has a DEI policy and a DEI officer. Deloitte has set up an institute, an inclusion institute. The goal of the institute that Deloitte's now launched is the newly launched EI Institute plans to provide cutting-edge research, bold points of view, impactful events that can help businesses and community leaders drive meaningful change in the workforce, marketplace, and society. While many businesses have focused on becoming more diverse and inclusive, there remains a continued need for actionable data-based research and advancing equitable outcomes. The focus on equity, with measurable and meaningful outcomes in the workforce, marketplace, and society, has become increasingly critical. I could go on to Goldman Sachs, who says the same thing with their female CEO, telling that their biggest asset is a diverse, cultivating a sustaining and diverse work environment and workforce. When our children leave this town with its pretty horizontal socioeconomic point of view, they are going to have women bosses, black bosses, gay bosses. They're going to have to navigate through policies that they will have not encountered at our schools. I mean, we have to import our black kids at this high school. So we are not a diverse place. We are selling them short.
2 minutes.
By not giving them more diversity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I know it's late. Promise 2 minutes this time. But thanks, Chairman, not Miss Chairwoman. Okay, what I cut is a short portion. I really want to share, and I feel like I'm in obligation. Would love to share. I come from China, mainland China. So when I see something, I think it's sad because you see something happen more than 50 years ago back in China to my parent generation. It's happening now here to our next generation. My kids always say, Mom, you're overreacting. Don't worry. It's America. We'll be fine. But honey, history does repeat itself. So what's the difference between America and China? Not food, not language, not culture. Fundamentally, it's the system and individual. Going back to the time when I grew up, we, both kids and adults, we only allowed not only say, but also think what government allows. Freedom of speech, freedom of thought, never heard, not even in dream. So only here in the United States, in America, when somebody say, what's his original word? Attacks on me are actually attacks on science. People here can question, how come? Why? With no fear, with no hesitation. So all I want to say is thank you, everyone here. I'm very impressed by all the hard work, everyone here, to keep New Canaan, our school, a place kids can focus on the study. And our community, kids can grow up being themselves. Less than 2 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Shakeba Bennett. I'm at 34 Green Avenue. No relation to you at all. Just wanted to be clear. I'm a teacher. I teach at a high school. I teach at Greenwich High School. And I'm in the classroom all day. I see kids of all backgrounds. I see kids of different self-identifying. And Greenwich, I'm assuming, is not that different from New Canaan. I'm sure those kids are in the same classroom here in New Canaan. They self-identify as they, as she, he, it, whatever you want to call it. We want those kids to have a place where they belong, where their diversity is respected, where they're valued. I spend most of my day in my classroom telling my students, be kind. How can you be kind when the adults in your community are using words, trying to eliminate words that matter? It matters in their lives. Words are very powerful. They all want to belong. I want to just kind of go back to what Beth Jones said earlier before. She's a respected member of this community, born and raised here. I've been here for 19 years. My son Strider went through the school system. He's now at Union College. My son Phoenix is in 8th grade at Saks. Teachers College graduate. I know you are. I want my children, especially your children, all of us, our children, to feel like they belong, but most importantly, that they're in a community. Going back to, again, I'm sorry, my thought process, going back to what Beth Jones said, we're not, forget about the national politics, we're not Democrats, Republicans, whatever. When you're on a board, you're here to represent New Canaan, the best that New Canaan could be. I'm one of the police commissioners. When I sit at that police commission board, I'm not a Democrat. I am a police commissioner for what is best for New Canaan. I leave my politics outside. And please remember that. We like that bubble because at the end of the day, we want the best for our community. It's not a Republican issue. It's not a Democratic issue. And I've seen a lot of people in this town from both sides of the political aisles that come together when it comes to issues that are New Canaan.
2 minutes, yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any others? Okay.
Hi, my name is Fatou Niang. You all know me by now. Diversity, inclusion, equity. We have to stop equating these three words to a race issue. It is not only a race issue. It is part of the conversation for sure, but those three words are not limited to it. They have kids, again, I said it last time, they have kids with different conditions, autism, special need, different abilities, different way of learning, different way of speaking, coming from different place of the world. It's important for the development of every single kid in our community to feel like they are accepted. It's not just saying a great, nice word that makes the adult feel good in the language that we have voted to, that you guys have voted today, which is a step forward. I'm glad some of you rethought this and re-included some words. You call it tomato, I call it tomato. It doesn't matter. What matters is at the end of the day, we have to service our kids. At the end of the day, I am not standing in here as a black woman in New Canaan. I've never used my race since I moved to town. My race is of no importance in this conversation. I'm standing here as a parent. My kids have been through the school system. They've been through the great part of it. They've been through some bad aspects that I only discovered in recent years. We talked about it many times. We think our kids are okay because they come home and they smile, and or they don't. When they're boys, they don't share anything. It's good. But we don't know what is behind those things. But I'm sure if we create the space for them to be able to express that, even it's just among themselves with their peers, that already is a plus. We can block the word DEI in New Canaan, but we cannot block it outside of this word. And our kids are going to have to leave this word and go to the other ones. It will be college, it might be work for some, but we can't block it. So please don't be afraid of the word and use them. That's only way we can fix this issue is by using and naming the issues that we have. So please, don't be afraid of the word diversity, inclusion, and equity. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's late, so I'll be brief. My name is Maya Sapansky. I'm a New Canaan resident on Oak Ridge. I just wanted to point out that as you dig into your work surrounding your DEI or watered down DEI research, I just want to point out that if a goal of yours is to tackle bullying in schools, DEI work does just that. The reasons that kids are bullied need to be met head on, and difference needs to be normalized and celebrated. We've been teaching social emotional learning for years, and while it's an improvement over nothing at all, kids are still bullied, and if anything, as you pointed out, it's getting worse with the development of technologies and cyberbullying. Kids must be explicitly taught to appreciate and accept difference in order for all children to feel welcomed, to feel accepted, and to feel like they belong. I urge all of you and everyone that's watching to take a good long look at the books that your children are reading and see how many feature kids that are differently abled or are minorities or culturally different from their own. It matters.
Thank you.
Hi, Alicia Meyer. I spoke earlier. I want to say I appreciate that the word belong was added to the goals. But I ask you, I implore you, as you do your next steps in this DEI work that's not being called DEI work, that you do seek expert consultation and advice. Like Maya said, our kids have been getting social emotional learning for years, and yet homophobia is still rampant. The things that come home that were said on the bus are horrible. The racist comments are horrible. I'm Hispanic. Racist things have been said to and about me, and our scholars at ABC House have had similar experiences. Years and years of sort of generic kindness platitudes are not the same as actual DEI education. We can't fix a problem that we won't name. We can't fix the problem that we refuse to name. We can't fix a problem that we won't name because of political reasons. Politics have no place here. So I ask you to please, in your next steps, please include expert advice as you would in any other decision you would be making in the school district. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Alan Haas. I live at 42 Southwood Drive. Our family moved here in 1972. So we've been here a while. We watched things go and develop. Our children went to the New Canaan school system, start to finish. And a personal touch, if I may, just briefly. My father fought literally in World War I. My mother was an ambulance driver in a munitions arsenal, Picatinny Arsenal during World War II. My oldest brother was in the Battle of the Bulge in Belgium. He survived. My sister was a nurse, and she was married to an Army guy. She was in Pearl Harbor at the time of the incident. My second brother was a Marine. He was in the Chongjin Reservoir and survived. He was also the sergeant major for one of the great Marine generals of all time, Chesty Puller. And I was in the Navy. So I think I got a good background in the service, and therefore I think I'm pretty loyal American and respectful of the flag. And it's that I wanted to just mention tonight. By the way, the debate's been great. Everybody's been here. People have been respectful. I think it's a wonderful example of democracy in action. But a little point, which has really bothered me, and I think this may be the place to bring it up. I also respect the flag, for obvious reasons, like we all do. But my wife and I were walking home from a short walk, and we met a canvasser coming from the other direction. And we chatted, and this person asked where we lived. I said, we live just right up there, about 3 or 4 houses up in the neighborhood. And, is that the house with the flag? No, we're in the house with the second flag. There are 2 flags on the left side. Oh, yes, I put my information there. You'll receive it when you go home, but here's another copy. So I may be wrong, but since I've checked with other people, the inference was that the people who fly the flag are politically leaning a certain direction. And I know that's not a nice thing to say, the press is not here, but I have to tell you, it's really bothered me. And if there's any inference that if you're of one party, that means that's your flag. It is not the flag of one party or another. It is the flag of America, it is the flag of all of us, and I want to make sure that I'm wrong. I could be wrong, but I want to make sure I'm wrong about that message that my wife and I got very clearly. We've thought about it. We've talked to other people. I have to tell you, it was just under my craw. I'm an American. We're all Americans. I respect everybody's opinion. I've never questioned it, but I cannot tolerate if someone or any one group or inclination or sect or sex grabs my flag. It's our flag, not anyone's flag. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right. Thank you once again for all staying and for sharing your comments with us. So now we'll close it out with announcements and future business.
Yep, at our next meeting, Dr. Correnti, our Deputy Superintendent, will be giving us an update on our teacher evaluation and professional learning plan, which we call TEPL. And I just wanted to quickly just share that on September 14th, the New Canaan Cares is having a speaker over at Saks at 7 o'clock for a program called Free Ranged Kids. And it is with, I don't know my glasses on, Lenore Skensky. Did I say that right? Maybe. But they have a speaker coming at 7 o'clock on the 14th around Parented through New Canaan Cares. If you're interested, all the program information is right on their website. It'll be right over at Saks. And that's it.
Great, thank you. All right, that I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Penny, Hugo, all in favor? All right, thanks everybody, good night.
Thank you.